Recording in progress.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Call this meeting to order. This is the concurrent meeting of the City Council and the Geologic Hazard Abatement District Board. Today is January 27, 2026. And to kick things off, I'd like to invite Councilmember Bonilla, if he can please do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. Please stand if you're able.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, if you can please take the roll. Ms. Morrison? Or who I forget, or Madam City Clerk, if you can please take roll.
Yes, good evening. Member Andrews? Present. Member Bonilla Jr.?
Present.
Member Goldstein?
Here.
Member Roach? Present. Here. Member Syrup?
Present.
Member Cermeño? Mayor and Chair Salinas.
Present, thank you. Next is public comments. This is reserved for anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment on something that is not on the agenda. And what I'd like to do is just to clarify, we are not in the official City Council meeting. We are in the officially in the GAD meeting. If you want to make a public comment to the City Council, and you're probably sitting there thinking, well, what is the GAD? Don't worry about it. Just wait for a moment to make a public comment to the City Council. But if you are here to make a public comment regarding the GAD, feel free to come on up. I don't see anybody in the room. I don't have anybody. I don't have any cards. And let's see. I don't see anybody online. So I'd like to close public comments and then move on to our consent calendar.
I'll move the item.
And then if you can use your... moved by Board Member Andrews, seconded by Board Member Syrup, and go ahead and vote. And then Member Roach.
I'm sorry, I think I was picked up mine. I could do it from here.
We can.
Yes.
We'll,
Okay.
yeah.
Very good.
Member Roach. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then yeah. Oh no, I don't want to withdraw it. I did. Okay. Okay. So I believe. Did you get everything? Did everything get recorded?
How would you like to?
I thought I said voted yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So item passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the public hearing, and this is Resolution 26-01, accepting tabulation of votes for the partial Group 3 development within the Hayward GAD, and Resolution 26-02, confirming the assessment and authorizing the levy and collection of assessment for the partial Group 3 development within the Hayward GAD. And this report will come to us by way of Manager Ralston.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and board members. My name is Haley Ralston. I am a geologist with NGO who serves as the GAD manager for the Hayward GAD. I'm joined here by Amara Morrison with Fenmore Law, who serves as clerk and legal counsel for the GAD. Excuse me. And tonight before the board are resolutions 2601 and 2602, accepting tabulation of votes to confirm the GAD assessment and ordering the levy of the GAD assessment for the parcel group 3 development in the Hayward GAD. On December 2nd, 2025, the GAD board approved resolution 2503, accepting annexation of the parcel group 3 development into the Hayward GAD and approving the parcel group 3 development plan of control. While the plan of control outlines the GAD's responsibilities within the development, an engineer's report provides a funding source for the GAD's responsibilities. Also, at the December 2nd, 2025 board meeting, the Hayward GAD board passed resolution 2504, approving the parcel group 3 development engineer's report to set an assessment limit of about 25 cents per square foot of habitable structures in fiscal year 25-26 dollars for buildings within the Hayward or the parcel group 3 development. It is anticipated that there will be approximately 215,000 square feet of habitable space across the 2 parcels within the parcel group 3 development. And the engineer's report recommends a total annual budget for the parcel group 3 portion of the GAD of $54,686. The parcel group 3 development assessment will not impact the existing assessment for the other residences and developments within the GAD. Additionally, the Hayward GAD has a shared reserve fund that each development contributes based on their geotechnical risks and specific responsibilities that the GAD has. Each property owner for the 2 parcels within the parcel group 3 development have received proper notification of the public hearing and the GAD's intent to order an assessment. In addition, each property owner has received a ballot to vote on the proposed assessment. Staff recommendation is for the board to consider any and all protests against the proposed assessment and direct the GAD clerk to tabulate the ballots received with resolution 2601. And if there is no majority protest, the GAD board may authorize the assessment with resolution 2602. And GAD staff are available for any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to come to the board and see if there's any questions from the board. I do not see any I don't see any hands raised here on the board. So I will close board questions. I'll go to public comment. Let me see, I don't have any cards and I don't see anyone online that would make a public comment. So I'd like to close public comment, return to the board. And if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Actually,
And if you could please use your
tabulate the
iPad, that'd be great.
excuse me, I'm sorry. I do have to, in my capacity as the GAD clerk, I do have to open the votes and tabulate the votes.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll just take a moment to
Yes.
do that. The first vote is
So
from,
is this a verbal vote? Is that what it is, or?
they have been mailed in. And
Oh,
so
I see.
am
I see.
opening,
Okay.
I am
yes.
opening the mailed votes. And the first one is from La Vista LLP. And that is a yay vote. And then the second property owner is Strategic Partners LLC. And that is also a yes vote. So all of the property owners have consented to this assessment.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so just for clarification, we still vote on this too, correct? Yes, what I thought. Okay. Okay. All right. So here, moved by Councilmember Goldstein, seconded by, moved by Board Member Goldstein, seconded by Board Member Roach, and we can just go ahead and vote. And I think it passes unanimously. Yep, there you go. Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we have the GAD manager's report. Ms. Ralston?
We also need a vote on resolution 2602, or did they do correct?
Oh,
So we had the first resolution to
Yes.
approve what the votes were, but now we need the resolution to approve the assessment. Thank you.
okay. Got it. Okay, so I'm just waiting for a mover in a second. Moved by Board Member Goldstein, seconded by Board Member Syrup, and then Councilmember Roach, or okay, 1, 2, 3, and it looks like motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Did we do everything? Okay. All right. Next is GAD oral report from our GAD manager, Ms. Ralston.
Great, thank you. Everything is going well so far through the winter season for all of the GAD maintained areas within the Hayward GAD. And so we'll continue to check on the site as needed during the winter if we get some more storms. And then we'll look forward to doing our spring monitoring and routine maintenance. And in addition, this item presented to the board this evening wraps up the annexation process for that development. And then the next board meeting will likely be around May or June to bring the annual budget to the board. So, and available for any questions the board may have.
I don't see any questions. And so I will close this and I'll move on to GAD board member reports, referrals, and future agenda items. I don't see anything. So move on to oral reports from GAD board members on their activities. I don't see anything. And ladies and gentlemen, meeting adjourned. Thank you. And it will take about 5 minutes to transform to a council meeting. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a city council meeting, January 27th. It is 7:19 p.m. And I'd like to ask our city attorney if he can please give us a closed session announcement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a closed session that convened at 6. One item under the category of anticipated litigation, one case was discussed.
Bless you.
There's no reportable action. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next is public comment. This is reserved for anybody in the public that would like to make a public comment on something that is not on the agenda. I do have a couple of public comment cards. Our first card is Kelly Abreu. I think I had the same, hopefully I pronounced it right. I think I mispronounced it last time.
Abdu. So cities say it's this is not on the agenda because cities don't want to have these items on their agenda. They say it's not their job to evaluate data center electricity demand. That's the state's job, the California Electrical Commission. It's not the Hayward's job to worry about using drinking water for evaporative cooling. It can just buy more Hetch Hetchy water from SFPUC. Unlimited amounts, I guess. This city doesn't try to limit diesel emissions. That's the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's job. Mayor Salinas sits on that board, so he's aware of their Diesel-Free by 2033 initiative, which was launched in 2018 and aims to eliminate diesel emissions from our communities. The Diesel-Free initiative was signed by the mayors of Oakland, San Leandro, Fremont, Union City, Newark, and San Jose, but it seems like Hayward didn't get the message. The Eden Landing Data Center will have 28 diesel generators. It was just recently approved, that project, totaling 77 megawatts. Hayward wants to be diesel-friendly to the max. The Mercury News story, published December 21st, 2025, said PG&E's data center pipeline has 4 Hayward projects totaling 975 megawatts. You won't get that from your planners because they don't total them up. They don't do cumulative, you know? That's enough electricity to serve, that's 4 times larger than San Jose's per capita data center energy pipeline. And it's enough electricity to serve 700,000 households, which is more than 14 times the 50,000 households which are actually in Hayward currently. Hayward can and should be data center friendly, but it shouldn't let itself be a data center doormat. Reasonable measures can reduce the impacts of data centers, and it's not all or nothing. You don't have to give them everything they ask for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment is Katia. And I believe it's Inzuza. Thank you.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Katy Insunza. Soy parte dueña de la casita número 1 y la casita número 2 aquí en esta ciudad.
Hi, my name is Freddie Sanchez. I'm going to translate for her. Okay. Her name is Katia Insunza. She's the owner of La Casita number 1 and number 2 in Hayward.
Como persona inmigrante y hispana, sé muy bien y estoy de acuerdo con que todos tenemos la oportunidad de tener un negocio en este país.
As a Hispanic, she understands that we all of us have the opportunity to have a business in this country.
Donde no estoy de acuerdo ahorita y junto con todos mis compañeros que venimos aquí es de la forma en que ahorita se está manejando los vendedores en las calles.
But what she doesn't agree is the way that with her colleagues here from other restaurants, how Hayward's handling street vendors that is hurting their business.
Nuestros negocios han sido sumamente afectados por esta razón y puesto que nosotros no podemos competir con ellos porque nosotros pagamos renta, luz, agua, pagamos impuestos, todas las regulaciones posibles que nos piden. Entonces, no podemos competir con precios ni nada.
What she doesn't agree is that she can't compete with those type of businesses because they pay high rents and all the city permits and everything associated with running a restaurant. And the street vendors don't pay none of that. And it's really hard for them to compete when they have to pay payroll and everything, you know?
Pero realmente donde más nos duele el corazón, hablando de mí, es la forma en que mis empleados han sido algunos despedidos y otros padres de familia afectados en su cheque, en lo que pagan por la misma razón. Por esa razón, tenemos mucho tiempo luchando con eso, pero ahora vengo a hablar en nombre de ellos.
They've been fighting this for a long time, and what really hurts her is that she has to lay off some of the employees because she can't keep up with all the expenses, and some of them have their hours cut, so now they can't provide that much to their families as well. So that's what's really bothering her at the moment.
Mis empleados en la cocina tienen su permiso de salubridad, los hacemos tomar clases. Los meseros de mi restaurante también toman clases para servir alcohol, pagan impuestos federal, estatal y pagan impuestos sobre sus tips. Todo eso, ellos se sienten discriminados. Y es por eso que más por mí, se los pido por ellos.
She's saying that her employees, some of them take classes, for example, for the sell alcohol. The ABC license requires them to take classes as well for some of the chefs. So she feels that it's not equal for street vendors and restaurant owners, employees to keep dealing with this on a daily basis.
Independientemente de lo que nosotros estamos perdiendo como dueños y también el Estado, porque tampoco se reportan sales tax, se los pido por favor, en nombre de mis empleados. ¿Cómo le expliqué a un empleado que no le iba a dar un bono por año nuevo? ¿Cómo le explicó ese empleado a sus hijos que no iban a tener regalos? Eso me parte el alma.
She didn't know how to explain to some of her employees that they were not going to get a bonus this year because of how everything is going on, right, with the economy. So that's really, really bothering her at the moment.
Thank you. Your time is up, but yes, we're listening. I'm going to call the next.
I thought she still had 2 more minutes.
Oh, yes, go right ahead. Yeah.
Pues prácticamente es todo. Hemos tenido juntas, nuestros compañeros y yo, sabemos que hay una regulación, no sé si se está implementando o no, pero bueno, eso es un comienzo de algo que quisiéramos que tener seguimiento. Muchas gracias.
She says that's it for now, but a lot of restaurant owners in Hayward are getting together now to try to come up with some solution. There's an ordinance in Hayward for street vendors, but it seems like the city is not doing anything about it, and she wants to see if the city can do something about that.
Thank you. Gracias. Our next speaker is Gregorio Arroyo.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here just to speak about same stuff. I'm a business owner in San Lorenzo, and pretty much it's the same thing. We're having a hard time right now, and we don't know what to do with the street vendors. So we want to bring this to you guys to see if there's anything that can be done to help us get them people removed, because my business is not only mine, because it's also your business. because I'm a taxpayer, and I, just like her, I paid all the licensing, permits, whatever it is. We have to be updated, and that's pretty much it. I just want to bring it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Pepe.
Hello, good afternoon. It's about the same issue. Street vendors. We would like to see if you guys have an update on how you guys are regulating them, if anybody has paid the permits, and following up the rules for the most part. If we can see that, I don't know where can we go and see it?
I can't respond to you from here, but we are taking notes, but yes.
Okay. All right. By the way, we got an inspector from the city who's harassing us. And I say harassing us by now because we see him like every other week. He's punishing us because water on the trash enclosure is going through the parking lot and it goes to the bay. We fix it. We're still having problems with this guy. We even had to pay up to $700 just because he's visiting us. But the pollero guy, the guy who sells chickens on 8th Street, he can get away with it, throwing water every day to put out the fire. I feel discriminated. We cannot get away with this guy, but he can get away every single day. That's not fair on us. I would like to see some results from you guys. Please, help us. All business that are here are empty. We got no revenue. And these guys are destroying us. Hayward must be doing a good job because street vendors from Stockton, from Sacramento, they're coming to Hayward. Why? Because they can get away with it. Please help us, do something. I don't know what else you want us to do. Come here every week. I got a video that I would like to show you, if it's possible.
How long is it?
About a minute.
Let's see if we can get it up, and I'll give you about 30 seconds to see.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Guys putting out the fire, throwing water on the street, straight to the bay, and he can get away with it. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gavidemnia? Yeah, there. What is Gardenia? Is that what it is?
Gardenia, but it's Gardenia in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Whoa. I apologize.
No worries. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Gardenia. I am here today as a resident, a mother, and a small business owner. Over the past several months, I have personally witnessed a significant increase of illegal street vending in our community, particularly along Western Boulevard, right next to Cherryland Elementary, which is around the corner, and also on the other street behind the Costco that we have here. I've observed vendors selling food without visible food handling permits or health licenses, setting up a makeshift kind of restaurant on the public, blocking the street, getting in between cars as well. But what's more concerning is I have seen the sale of alcohol in public. I have seen people selling pupusas, which I love, but then they're opening their Coronas or doing micheladas. As a parent, this is unacceptable and it is frightening. Our children should not be exposed to illegal alcohol sales outside of their schools, nor should they be placed at risk by increased traffic chaos and unsafe street conditions. As a business owner myself, I am equally concerned. I own my business, I pay my taxes. I follow city, county, and state regulations. I obtain permits, insurance, and license because that is what we're required to operate legally and responsibly. Many local brick and mortar businesses do the same. Illegal vending undercuts those businesses, hurts our local economy, and increases an uneven playing field for entrepreneurs who are doing things the right way, like we've heard. My professional work is centered on supporting businesses and helping them gain visibility and grow. I deeply emphasize with the entrepreneurs trying to survive, but illegal vending, especially involving food safety violations and alcohol sales, is not the answer. It puts public health, children, and the broader community at risk. I'm simply asking for the city to take this issue seriously, to enforce existing ordinances, to prioritize areas near schools, and protect both for children and our local economy. This is not about punishment, but it's safety, fairness, and accountability. We can support entrepreneurship while still upholding the laws that we keep our community safe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I don't have any, I have more public comment. I don't have any public comments for street vendors. Is there, since we're on the topic, is there anyone else in the group that wants to make a comment, particularly with street vending? Okay, seeing none, what I'll do is this. I'm going to break from decorum for a moment and respond. Like all of you, the council, we have been grappling with this for a very long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to, Pepe had asked for a report, and I'll just give you this brief little report that has happened over the last couple of months. There was a warehouse here in Hayward, very close here in City Hall, where all of the trailers that were barbecuing chickens, there must have been about 25, 30 trailers parked in this warehouse, and in plain view on a daily basis. You had pallets of wood, pallets of food. I mean, it was just getting ridiculous. Last summer, I drive by this spot daily. I made that little warehouse my project. We were able to shut that warehouse down. Today, that warehouse is cleared out. All those trailers are gone. However, some of those trailers are still, I see them, A Street, Tennessee, I mean, I see them.
Everywhere.
And so I just wanted to let you know that we are listening.
Thank you.
We are taking action. We do have inspectors that have been out there. We have confiscated equipment, food, and other things. We have cited, and they return. If not in hours, they return the next day. They return, quick. The other, and so it's an issue that we have been grappling with, and I know, we have our Director of Development Services back there. I have been talking to her. She and I have had very robust conversations about this. She and her staff are listening. She oversees our code enforcement officers, and so we, I don't want you to think that we are not doing anything. We are. And so we will continue working on this. And what I will do after this meeting, I'm going to ask the city manager. I don't want to pile on yet another meeting on top of all of you, but I'll tell you what, and I will make this personal commitment to all of you tonight. I will be willing to meet. I'd like to pull a meeting with all of you and your colleagues in this building. We can do it up in my office, and because what I'd like to do is share what we've been doing, but I also want you to hear some of the complexities that the city's been faced with in enforcement. We are doing enforcement out there. It may not look like we're doing enforcement, but it has been a very difficult issue that we have been working on, and so I just wanted you to know that we do have your number, I think.
And we follow each other on Instagram too.
Okay.
So we
Oh,
can
so you
always
know how to
connect.
find. Well,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get your phone number.
Thank you.
Give it to the city manager, and we will arrange a meeting. I want to talk to you, your colleagues, city manager, and our director of development services, because I think this is we really need to talk to each other about what's going on here, and let you know that we really are listening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to us and taking the time and seeing that this is a critical and urgent matter now that alcohol is involved and being sold literally on the other side of the fence at Cherryland Elementary.
I know.
So thank you for your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Council member Andrew. Oh. Did you see, what did I do here? Well, Councilmember Andrews.
I had a question for
Yeah.
the city manager and wanted to know if it's possible if you can invite the state representatives to this meeting as well as the county representatives to this meeting so they can hear the concerns of the community, but also hear what the city's been doing and what their role in this is, and explain the legislation as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all, the restaurant owners who came here. Muchísimas gracias. Mayor, I appreciate your comments, and I support them 100%, and I'm hoping we can do something to help them out.
Yep.
So, thank
Excellent.
you. Gracias.
Thank you. And then, and make sure you give your phone number to our city clerk so we can connect with you, not on Facebook. Okay. Thank you, and gracias. Thank you for everything. Our next speaker is Alejandro Jasso.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandro Jasso. I'm a local resident here in Hayward, Mission Boulevard, and also co-chair for Bike Hayward. And I'm here just to talk about the massive financial subsidies that we're giving to car storage, especially in prime real estate, like in downtown. You know, we're one of the only cities in the whole Bay Area that offers unlimited 100% free parking, and that has not saved a lot of the businesses in the area. So I just want to highlight that as a major subsidy that we can no longer continue to provide, especially when we're cutting so many services throughout the city. It's time for the city to implement some model. It could be like Walnut Creek, where they offer the first 2 hours for free in the parking garages, but then they have meters on the main streets, like it could be Main Street and B Street, to ensure that there is easy access to the businesses. But yeah, we can no longer continue to do this. We're leaving around $3 to $4 million off the table by providing this free parking, which is not free. We have to constantly upgrade those parking garages, repave them, so they are not free, and that money comes directly from the general fund. So I would really encourage you to look into providing a model that supports the businesses, but also does not subsidize cars even more. Well, you know, we barely have any bike lanes. So, thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all I have in terms of cards. And let me check online to see if we have any public comments. I don't see any public comment online. So what I'll do is, if there are no other public comment, I will close public comment and move on to city manager's comments. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing I want to talk about is the biennial point-in-time count. So on Thursday, January 22nd, we held a successful point-in-time count of people experiencing sheltered and unsheltered homelessness in Hayward. It was successful in large part for us because of the leadership of our community services manager, Dr. Amy Colbloom, and the commitment of her team. 63 volunteers, including 25 Hayward staff members and elected officials, fanned out across the city as part of the broader county pit count. Volunteers met at 5 a.m. at City Hall and went out in teams to survey the unsheltered community. They spoke with more than 60 people and distributed care packages that also were assembled earlier in the week by city staff volunteers. And the county will release official count data later this year, and staff will bring an update to the council when it is available. We also have at the Hayward Public Library, it's a screening of a very special screening, and it's I'm gonna have to pronounce this. Luckily, they have a cue here for me. But Kinsu Kuroi on Saturday, January 31st, starting at 1:50 p.m. at the downtown library. The screening it's a fictional account based on the true experiences of local Japanese Americans during World War II and the impact Executive Order 9066, which resulted in mass incarceration of Japanese Americans in desolate camps throughout the country. And the screening will be followed by a panel discussion around 3:15 p.m. with the film's director, Kerwin Burke, and the members of his crew. And the program is being presented in partnership with the Hayward Area Historical Society and the Hayward Arts Council. And pre-registration is requested. So to pre-register, please go online to the Hayward Public Library calendar at hayward.librarycalendar.com. Last is Hayward Rides at Eden Youth Open House. Lastly, on Friday, January 30th, city staff will support nonprofit Eden Youth in hosting the third Hayward Rides bike giveaway event. The event will be part of Eden Youth's Open House, which will include a tour of Eden Youth's clubhouse, information about Eden Youth programs, and a free bike valet and free bike repair services through Bike East Bay. And city staff and Eden Youth will give away approximately 100 bikes to pre-selected Hayward Rides recipients. And the event will take place from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Eden Youth and Family Center at 680 West Tennyson Road. And so for more information on the Hayward Rides program, email haywardrides@hayward-ca.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And, it's good to see our Public Works Director here, Alex Amiri. With the Hayward Rides program, we are the first city in the country, and I'm glad Mr. Hasso is here because I know he's been observing this, the first city in the country to launch the first generation of kids who will have alternative ways of traveling, and that is by way of bicycles. And this has been a couple of years in progress, and I'm glad we're now getting bikes out there. I don't know what the number is. We've connected, 200 kids so far, maybe 300, 200 plus or minus. Anyways, it's good to see that the Eden Youth Center is out there doing that work. But thank you, and I know Bike East Bay has been a big, strong partner, and CARB. We can't forget about CARB. This is by way of our CARB grant that we received. So this is our way of reducing greenhouse gases in Hayward. So thank you very much. Okay, thank you. And also, yes, just wanted to say, please thank Dr. Amy Cole-Bloom with the point in time count. I saw staff. Truth be told, I got to admit, I did not get there at 5 a.m. I got there at 5:30 a.m. But I did get there, and we did go out there and do the census. But it was I did see Mayor Pro Tem Syrup and Councilmember Andrews out there, and also Councilmember Roach. And if you were else out there, I apologize if I missed you. But nonetheless, that was important work. So please thank Dr. Amy Cole-Bloom for that work. And I did read in the East Bay Times today that they were looking at some preliminary data that the number may be lower than in the past, statewide. But I don't know here in Alameda County or in Hayward. But anyways, we will be anticipating the results. So thank you very much for that. And so I will move on to our action items, which is a consent calendar. And I believe, of course, where are the cards at now? I had a couple people who wanted to pull right here. No, these were four. Okay. So I want to pull item 4 and 2. Okay. Okay, so let me do this. I have, let's, before we go through our actions, let's, Ahmed, is it Sorab? Yeah, Ahmed, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ahmed Shorab. I'm commenting on consent item 4, which was the $1.2 million to study the high injury network on Mission Boulevard. So a little bit about myself. I'm a homeowner in the Hayward Hills. I live by Cal State East Bay, and I bike commute to BART every day. So I'm very supportive of the initiative. I want to thank the city staff for using this money to do further investment into the high injury network. However, I'd like to see the monies focused on perhaps pilot programs instead of additional studies. So as you guys might know, the initial alignment of the East Bay Greenway was on Mission. So I think there's already plenty of concepts that have been studied along that corridor. So I want to see whether that can be used as a starting point to, instead of doing additional studies, why don't we go ahead and try something out and see what works, right? So being from the hills, I saw the concepts that were studied for years on Hayward Boulevard, and I was very disappointed to see that that was axed at the last second after some people showed some concern in the community. And what I noticed is it seems like ultimately we're scared to trust the studies, right? And I understand, you know, you've been on a street, you use it for 30 years, and you're scared of a change, even if somebody tells you it's for the better, right? So instead of sitting here and debating with all our imaginary transportation engineering degrees, why don't we do something different instead and actually try these things out, and after a while get together as a community and decide, you know, if it's the best thing going forward for all of us. And I want to close with, you know, there's limited funds, especially with the political environment these days. This is, you know, federal funding that we may never see again. So I want to make sure that we use that money wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, and this is for item number 4. Was it item number 4 or yeah, go ahead, Mr. Hasso.
Hello again. I'm Alejandro Hasso, local resident near Mission Boulevard. So I was very closely paying attention about the East Bay Greenway when it was aligned on Mission Boulevard. That project, it's been in over a decade where like they've been trying to move forward with the East Bay Greenway, and I saw the studies that happened on Mission Boulevard. You know, there's already concept plans on what could be implemented, parking studies, also traffic analysis. There's been a lot of outreach that has already been done on Mission Boulevard. So I just want to make sure that this money is also prioritized for the Mission section on pilot programs. We saw the success of Orchard Avenue. You know, we tested it with FlexPost and it worked. They reduced the lanes and traffic didn't go crazy. They had to adjust some of the turning lanes, but it worked. And it was the best way to test these ideas. You know, we cannot continue to be stuck on these studies and ideas if we never materialize them and test them on the ground. Again, my nephew goes to Stonebray, so I was like really upset when the Hayward Boulevard project was canceled because of some concerns about traffic. We take my nephew every day. There's never traffic when you're going up and down because there's no intersections. And also the Hayward Loop. The studies showed that it was going to solve traffic. All the animations, you know, they showed the traffic flowing super smoothly, but the project was not tested before we spent $100 million on that, which is like now, you know, we're trying to undo that, but that $100 million has already been spent. So this is time for testing these ideas, figuring out what works, and then from there move on to the permanent solution. But it's time to use this money efficiently now that there's so many budget deficits all over the place. So please, you know, use this money for Mission Boulevard, use the existing studies and test something out. It's time for a pilot, protect the bike lane on Mission Boulevard, and figure out how that impacts Don't just assume that things are going to happen a certain way. Test them out and figure out what works. I don't want to see another project get killed because of unfounded concerns like Hayward Boulevard. So it's real unsafe for me to go pick up my nephew from Stonebreak, and unfortunately, by the time there's bike lanes on Hayward Boulevard in the future, he's no longer going to be there. So please use this money efficiently, and let's move on to pilot programs.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tyler Dragoni.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Tyler Dragoni. I grew up in Hayward. I currently work in Hayward. Once again, the council is asked to appropriate money for a study to determine how dangerous our streets are. Do we really need another study? A little perspective for when it comes to, in this case, just Mission Boulevard. The first round of studies for the East Bay Greenway from Lake Merritt included Mission Boulevard, was a whopping $9 million study. The $9 million study was published, and the recommendations were for Mission Boulevard, pare 3 lanes down to 2 when entering downtown, and the elimination of on-street parking in select places. In the same exact year of this $9 million study that clearly delineated what was needed in order to make Mission Boulevard more safe, a fatality occurred. Bicyclist Chris Pena was killed at Mission Boulevard and Orchard Avenue. In the same exact year of the fatality, surprising many, the council briskly rejected the $9 million study's safety recommendations and opted to go back to the drawing board, siphoning off an additional $3 million in countless more years, all to abandon what we all know inevitably needs to be done to Mission Boulevard if Hayward is ever to realistically utilize the university's potential as a college town in any meaningful way. I wish I could stop there. At the same exact intersection in May 2024, Cal State University East Bay student Sai Gopali was struck and killed while riding a scooter. As someone who cares about the safety of all, what we need to do is build, stop studying. Hayward is a laggard behind all other East Bay cities when it comes to multimodal infrastructure. After more than $12 million, and now with this study, it would come to $13.2 million. It is a disgrace that Mission Boulevard is just as uninviting to walkers, bikers, e-bikers, and scooters as it was when the loop was finished. Instead of litigating the past, let's be collaborative. Let's pilot projects, but most of all, let's use the data and tools we already have to build, test, and fine-tune design in order to make lasting, safer changes to our transportation infrastructure.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to come back up here to the council. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to just get a comment from our city manager about the funding sources for consent item 2 and 4. 2 is the Twin Bridges landscaping, I think, assessment. I just want to make sure that that's not general fund money that's going towards that.
Yeah, neither of these items are funded with the general fund.
Okay.
So the landscaping lighting district is an assessment district, so it actually generates funds directly from the district. So those aren't general fund dollars. They're actually restricted for the use of landscaping and lighting.
Thank you.
And then the grant for the Kittleson contract is from a number of different sources, and I can pull up right here what those are, but they're all non-general fund sources, so
Okay.
grants and other uses that aren't from our general fund.
Okay, and the public comments notwithstanding, I just wanted to be clear that these were not taking money from the general fund and away from the bigger concerns of financial crisis that we have to go to these projects, but notwithstanding the public comments about the content of that fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have your? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to hear from staff to understand the high injury network study versus the other studies, and are these studies required to obtain those grants for future improvements?
Hi, Byron Tang, Principal Transportation Engineer, Public Works. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Are these studies required for any of the grants for any future work? Do we have to have this grant in order, have these studies in place separately in order to obtain future funding for the work to be implemented?
Yeah, so many of these corridors are on the high injury network, and a lot of them haven't had this level of studies before. The purpose of these studies is to get 35% conceptual design with accurate, a more accurate cost estimate. With those cost estimates, we can then use them to go after further funding for the other phases like detailed design, right-of-way, and construction. So without that proper planning, and since these are very large quarters, getting those cost estimates right, we wouldn't be set up well to be able to get to those next phases.
So the previous studies did not include the cost of escalation because we didn't understand the year of when we were going to implement?
Well, many of these quarters haven't been studied at this level. And in addition, these studies are not just looking at those cost estimates and designs. There's a lot of outreach that needs to be done. A lot of neighborhoods that didn't get a voice previously or didn't get a chance to really have a say in these improvements. So that's one of the big things about this grant is to kind of go back and make sure the whole community is involved in this process.
And are there any opportunities for pilot projects to be done for any of our corridors?
I think there could be opportunities, but not within this grant. This grant was submitted to the federal FHWA. The scope is very clear that it is a planning grant. It is not an implementation grant. So we can only use this for planning purposes. But yes, we as a department, we look at other opportunities like Orchard, and that's always a possibility, but not through this grant.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have one more public commenter online. Bruce, is it CV Science, Bike Walk CV?
Yes, Bruce Doogie here. Yeah, I just want to also, I don't know, second, third, fourth, whatever, this idea of having a pilot on mission. It's disappointing to hear that you can't spend some of that, planning money, I guess, on implementation. But that was what I was calling in for, was to see some implementation. Mission is a really challenging place to cycle. I do ride on a small portion of Mission. It's really harrowing. I take it when I go down to Fremont, and I forgot the street. I take it going south, and then I do a right turn there at the 7-Eleven. I forget the name of the street, and then I walk over the BART tracks with that really difficult to use crossing that has steps on it and super steep. So I have to carry my bicycle, and then I drop it on the other side, and then I'm at that really difficult intersection. It was at Whitman, and I forgot the other street. Anyway, it's a very challenging riding on Mission is extremely challenging and dangerous, and something just needs to be done. And if anybody's ever going to, if you ever want people to use businesses down there, as we build more and more housing along there, you need a higher and higher density of mobility, and cars are the least dense mobility that there is. You're going to need buses and trains and bicycles and things like that as we build more and more housing through there. So cars are just not going to do it. Car lanes are not going to do it. You need, bike lanes. So anyway, that's my comment. I would like to see some pilot action down on Mission. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'll come back up here, and I believe Councilmember Bonilla has a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. My comment is, I understand that this is a planning grant, and I understand that, this is precepting the implementation work, but I think to the points of our public commenters, I frequently run Mission, and I cannot wait until we get to the implementation phase of some of these studies, and it's so good to see that we're able to, get $1.2 million in planning funds. So I'm just really looking forward to staff's creativity and how we, move through this planning phase as quickly as possible, get implementation dollars, and really start to see some of this planning come to fruition on these really important corridors that we all have a desire to see more multimodal, so, and in particular pedestrian and biker friendly. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Syra.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of the public comment tonight and asking the city to be more action-oriented around pedestrian safety, bike safety in general. I'm very supportive of those kinds of projects. As you heard, there are limitations around what this grant money can be spent on. And I do want to emphasize that part of this phase 2 is also looking at Jackson and Hesperian, parts of the city that actually receive very little attention as it relates to traffic calming and safety. So I think it is essential that while some studies may have been done on Mission and maybe not to this level of detail as we're hearing, we need to do studies on other parts of the city that have long needed better transportation infrastructure as well. And so, something I'm looking forward to maybe at a future Council Infrastructure and Airport Committee meeting is understanding how the city is sequencing its traffic calming projects so that our advocates understand how we're looking at what parts of the city we're going to be improving and at what time. I know we have the Greenway coming up later on in this meeting in particular, but Mission has been a problem for a very long time, and we're opening a daycare on Fletcher and Mission, and that's going to be an issue for parents and young children. And with all the dense housing that we have, this is also an economic development question for me too, because as we approach South Hayward with all of the new housing developments, you have a lot of really nice restaurants like La Vix or Los Dos Hermanos that have opened up. But residents that live literally across the street have to walk a quarter mile to the end of the block to take a crosswalk and then walk a quarter mile back up to get to the restaurant instead of just crossing a street for a restaurant that's literally right across the street from them. So, as our neighborhoods evolve, so too does our thinking around their connectivity. I am very supportive of this item, and I appreciate the work that's gone into bringing this forward. The first phase, I believe, was spent on helping us think through how we might want to redesign the loop, which was a major lift. And so I'm really pleased with the progress we're making on this. And while we still have access to these federal dollars, I say we make use of them to make our city safer. So definitely noted. Thank you to the Bike Hayward advocates for their comments, and we'll continue to push forward on this issue. And I'm happy to move the consent calendar.
Okay. Okay, just make sure, let's see if we can hit that button and see if it works this time.
You got it, 1 second. Consent calendar.
Moved by, oops.
Can we just do a voice one on this
Mayor
one?
Salinas,
Yes.
Mayor Salinas, my apologies. I believe Councilmember Cermeño has requested to speak.
Oh, Councilmember Cermeño.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, my colleagues, for all these good positive comments, and thank you to the speakers. Just a small reminder, buy your bicycle in Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you. And, hopefully nobody gets reckless up here on this. I'm just going to go with the mover. We just had everyone remove their name. Okay. I think we're okay. Now
we're good.
All right. The world is whole again. The world is whole. But before we vote, I do want to say, yes, Mr. Hasso, you and your colleagues and neighbors have certainly been tracking us, especially at the Infrastructure Committee. You have seen some rambunctious infrastructure meetings over the months, and they have been rambunctious, and they've been spirited, and something needs to be done about Mission Boulevard, and I absolutely agree. You're not going to get any disagreement up here, but I'm going to stand by Councilmember Syra or Mayor Pro Tem Syrup's words, and we're getting there. We're getting there. So with that said, I am going to vote, and I believe the item has unanimously passed. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our work session item. Work session, this is our item number 5, which is WS 26-003, business. Business-friendly Hayward project update, review of draft municipal code and zoning maps revisions related to the business-friendly Hayward project. And this report will come to us by way of Director Sarah Bowser. And I see she has colleagues with her. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sachiko Riddle. I'm Assistant Planner. And tonight, Elizabeth Blanton, Senior Planner, and I will be giving you an update on the business-friendly Hayward project. Tonight's work session is meant to get your feedback on draft municipal code revisions and proposed new permit types. We'll also be discussing our proposed rezonings and 2 new strategic land use controls. As a reminder, our 2 main project objectives are to streamline the permitting process for businesses across our commercial and mixed-use zoning districts and to activate underutilized and vacant properties and storefronts downtown. In spring and summer of 2025, we primarily focused on outreach and analysis, on research and analysis and outreach and feedback. And then in fall and winter of 2025, we worked on making edits to the municipal code and drafting ordinances and regulations for new permit types. We hope to be back before you in early spring for final adoption. You'll see on the screen a list of the outreach that we've conducted to get information and feedback on how to proceed with the project. Our outreach to the community has consisted of a survey to community members and business owners, a meeting with the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association, tabling at the street parties last summer, a business owner focus group, and a community member focus group. We plan on doing more outreach in the coming month with a community member group for the properties that are proposed to be rezoned and a community meeting with the industrial business owners. Our outreach to decision makers has included a meeting with the Council Economic Development Committee, 2 Planning Commission work sessions, and 2 City Council work sessions, including the one tonight. Later in the presentation, we will discuss how we responded to the feedback we've received from our community members and decision makers during our outreach. But for now, I'll turn it over to Elizabeth to give a recap of our analysis and to discuss proposed changes to the current code.
Thanks, Sachi. So during the research and analysis phase of the project, we developed a series of background reports. We went over these in detail during our last work session in September, so I won't do that again, but I do want to remind you of some key findings from each report. First, in the best practices report, which looked at other nearby cities to see what they were doing to activate their commercial districts, they included recommendations to allow flexible land use regulations that can easily adapt to changing and evolving market trends. Included recommendations to streamline permitting for small live entertainment activities, and then also to promote pop-up and temporary uses, especially in vacant spaces. Secondly, we had an analysis of our Hayward codes and practices that took a deep dive into all parts of our code that regulate commercial businesses. And in particular, that analysis said we should simplify the permitting processes where possible, especially for the types of businesses that our community really likes and that our market shows demand for. In addition, it said that we should limit the overall number of commercial zoning districts so that our zoning code and zoning map are easier to read and navigate. And then finally, we had a downtown commercial analysis that included both a market and demographic analysis of our downtown core that found that downtown generally lacked the right mix of entertainment and experiential businesses and local serving retail that would really draw people to Hayward. But it did identify as an opportunity that we do have some vacant and underutilized spaces that are ripe for activation for pop-ups and for other types of improvements. So the analysis from these 3 reports, coupled together with that feedback that we received from the community, from businesses, from the commission, and then from the council, formed the basis of the code changes that we'll be reviewing tonight. So let's dive into those. Attachments 2 through 11 of the staff report walk through the numerous changes to the Muni Code and the zoning map that staff is proposing to achieve the project's goals of making Hayward more business friendly. Rather than exhaustively walking through every revision, which would keep us here all night, we're just going to give a high-level summary of the main changes, and then we're happy to dive into any of the particulars during the Q&A. So first, as shown in attachments 2 and 3, we took our 8 commercial sections of the code and we consolidated them down into 1. So this means if you want to open a business in one of our commercial zoning districts, you can now go to one section of the code, look at one table and easily see where your business would be allowed instead of having to flip back and forth between 8 different code sections, which is what you have to do today. In addition, we simplified land uses into broader categories like office and retail and personal services. So this way, when new types of businesses enter the market, staff can flexibly figure out where they best fit into the code rather than being forced to either exclude new types of businesses or being forced to frequently amend the code that is too rigid. Secondly, aligned with community preferences and supported by both Planning Commission and Council direction, we have relaxed the permitting requirements for a number of different uses. Notably, this includes reducing the requirement for businesses that are selling or serving beer, wine, or alcoholic cider in most districts from a conditional use permit, which requires Planning Commission approval, down to an administrative use permit that only requires staff level approval. Now, in places where we really want to encourage breweries, cideries, and wine shops, like in the downtown core at Southland Mall, we recommend removing these permitting requirements entirely and allowing these uses by right, similar to what we would do for a full-service restaurant. Similarly, staff proposes allowing distilleries in the downtown core with approval of an administrative use permit, animal care facilities in a wider range of commercial districts, also with approval in AUP. And in addition to support our artistic community, tattoo shops are proposed to be allowed by right in our downtown core, at Southland Mall, and in our general commercial zoning district, while requiring an AUP in other commercial and mixed-use districts. And then finally, staff proposes allowing daycare centers, recreational facilities for both kids and adults, and cultural facilities and community centers by right in most commercial and mixed-use districts, including downtown, as again, these are highly sought after by our community members. Now, given that cultural facilities and community centers are sometimes rented out as event spaces, in consultation with our police department, staff proposes limiting event spaces within these facilities to be rented out to a maximum of 11 p.m. So any facility that wants to rent out these spaces beyond this time would be considered a banquet hall and would be required to apply for a conditional use permit, no matter where they're located within the city. Now, while the vast majority of our proposed revisions are ways to lighten permitting requirements and streamline processes, there are 2 uses where we're recommending stricter controls for. The first is for massage establishments. Currently, massage establishments require approval of a conditional use permit everywhere in the city except downtown, where they're permitted by right. Recently, Hayward PD has become aware of instances of commercial sex work taking place at both permitted and unpermitted massage businesses within the city, and as a result, last month, the council established a temporary moratorium on new massage businesses. So in response, staff proposes requiring a CUP for massage establishments in the downtown area, just like everywhere else in the city, to ensure that all of these businesses are required to go through the same rigorous CUP review process, which would include review by both the planning division and PD staff. When the business-friendly project comes back to the Planning Commission and Council for final adoption hearings this spring, along with an updated version of the massage ordinance, we'll be recommending that the council ends the temporary moratorium once these more appropriate land use controls are in place. And then more discussion on the temporary moratorium will follow with the next item on the agenda tonight. Secondly, staff recommends requiring a conditional use permit for data centers and limiting this industrial land use, which typically is characterized by large generator yards, significant amounts of diesel fuel, and potentially significant environmental effects to the general industrial zoning district. As currently defined in our code, data centers actually qualify as an office use, which means that they're permitted by right in a large number of commercial and industrial zoning districts. The 2 recent data center projects that have come before the Planning Commission in the last 5 years have only been required to do so because they've requested building heights that are above 75 feet, and they've been on sites that are over 10 acres. So that's triggered the need for major site plan review. Otherwise, those projects would have been eligible for staff level review. So by requiring a CUP for data centers, this will ensure that in all cases, no matter what, these types of projects will be reviewed at a public hearing before the Planning Commission. And further, staff recommends that we limit the location to the general industrial zoning district given the large amount of hazardous materials and then the potential for environmental impacts that are associated with this type of use. And then finally, in an effort to simplify the zoning map, staff proposes consolidating 3 of our smallest commercial zoning districts into larger ones that have very similar zoning regulations and development patterns. So as shown on this slide, we recommend that the residential office district, which allows residential and office uses, gets combined with the commercial office district, which also allows residential and office uses, into a new combined district called the commercial office residential district. Secondly, the limited commercial district, which is located in small pockets around town, and the regional commercial district, which is literally only the Costco site on Hesperian, are recommended to be redesignated as general commercial. So this will allow the current uses on those sites to continue, but in some point at the future, if they were ever to redevelop, it will allow more options when that time comes. By consolidating the number of zoning districts from 8 down to 5, we make our zoning code easier to read, we make our zoning map easier to navigate, and ultimately this is helpful to businesses that are just trying to find a place to open up shop. And now I'll turn it back to Sachi to finish up real quick.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We talked to community members and decision makers about specific permit types that our analysis found would help bring businesses and people to Hayward. The 3 listed on this slide are the ones that staff can successfully implement given current staffing and budget constraints. We're exploring a zoning conformance permit for accessory commercial units. As a reminder, ACUs are small businesses that are run from the home, like a home office, but unlike a home office, these uses will generate foot traffic from the surrounding community. To start, we would like to allow ACUs in downtown and Mission Boulevard zoning districts that allow for detached residential, as these seem like the areas where the community would best benefit. These areas are already busy and generally have a higher population than your standard low-density residential neighborhoods. If this pilot's successful, we can look at expanding it to other neighborhoods in the city of Hayward. We've been very specific about which types of uses would be allowed as ACUs. They're all low-impact uses like beauty salons, pet grooming, fitness studios, and coffee shops with a takeout component only. Any sort of restaurant or dining in has been excluded from this list of approved uses as a way to address the council's concerns around exacerbating the city's existing challenges around sidewalk vending. Staff is looking for feedback on if the pilot area for this permit type seems appropriate and if the list of proposed allowed uses should be expanded or restricted further. The council also showed great interest in creating a limited entertainment permit. Currently, the city has a cabaret ordinance that looks to regulate more intense uses such as nightclubs, but tends to stream out live entertainment as a whole. This new limited entertainment permit would provide easier and more streamlined path for small live entertainment opportunities such as karaoke or open mic nights. Staff is looking for feedback to ensure the types of entertainment allowed with a limited entertainment permit feel correct and to make sure we aren't missing anything that you believe should be included in this permit type. And finally, though many zoning districts currently allow temporary uses to operate with an approved administrative use permit, many of our smaller temporary uses are screened from operating due to the cost of the permit and the time it takes to process. Our new temporary use permit process is intended for smaller, low-impact activities that operate for a limited period of time. This would include pop-up shops, garden events, or outdoor events on private property, things that are similar to that. Applicants would be required to meet an established set of standards, which would allow for a simple and quick review and a flat fee for processing, all handled within the planning division. To further our attempts to be business-friendly in the city of Hayward, here are other process improvements that we are either currently doing or working on putting into place to provide applicants with a clearer and smoother permitting experience. Currently, all staff plan reviewers meet bi-weekly to discuss projects. Though 80% of all building permits are processed in less than 3 rounds of review, for those projects that exceed that, we will be requiring a meeting with the applicant and reviewers to discuss the challenges and comments for these projects. The Chief Economic Development Officer, Paul Nguyen, is developing a list of priority projects to provide to all project reviewers. And finally, DSD and IT are working on a dashboard that can track significant development applications so we can see in real time where they're at in the process. The Commission was generally supportive of all of staff's draft changes to the municipal code and proposed new permit types. They did ask staff to review the possibility of data centers in the IP zoning district further. We did get some written correspondence from the public specifically around the data center component of this project. One industrial developer supported allowing data centers in the IP zoning district with set operational standards. 2 community members expressed concerns about data centers and their impact to the city of Hayward as a whole, regardless of the zoning district. And with that, Elizabeth and I will turn it over to the council for discussion. At this junction in the project, we would particularly like to know if the council finds the draft municipal code revisions, new permit types, and proposed rezoning appropriate for Hayward. Are the downtown and Mission Boulevard corridor the suitable areas to pilot accessory commercial units in Hayward? And does the council support the list of proposed uses that you can see on the screen? Does the council support the types of entertainment uses in the limited entertainment permit program? And are there other entertainment activities that the council believes should be included under this permit? And finally, is the council supportive of adding event spaces to our definition of cultural facility and community center, allowing event spaces in more zoning districts, including in the downtown, with a simpler process as long as the events end by 11 p.m.? Elizabeth and I are happy to answer any questions that you have about the project, and we look forward to your feedback.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so I do have, this is item number 5. I thought I was organized, but okay, that's the last one. Okay, so this is a work session. So what I want to do is I'm going to open it up for public comment first. So let me go to our first card. Is it Philip Seidels? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Salinas and members of the council. My name is Philip Seidels, here on behalf of Prologis. We're a large industrial developer and property owner. And for the last 40 years, Prologis has been an integral part of the city of Hayward, supporting jobs, generating significant tax revenue, and advancing sustainable industrial development. We support the business-friendly Hayward initiative, particularly its focus on strengthening the city's fiscal health and attracting new businesses. One item of concern that was recently brought to our attention is the proposed prohibition of data centers in the industrial park zoning area, which we believe will unintentionally work against those goals. Data centers are increasingly being recognized across the Bay Area as a modern form of industrial infrastructure that coexist with other industrial uses and really generate synergies with those uses, such as advanced manufacturing, R&D, high compute type of uses. The Heinz data center on Clawwater and the adjacent Zooks manufacturing facility is a great example of that in the city of Hayward. Hayward's IP zoned area, specifically on the western side of the city, is specifically well suited for data center use due to the transmission intersection there and the large electrical yard. That's why that previous data centers are being attracted there. Also, it has a buffer from the residences, which maybe on the IP zoned on the eastern side of the city, it doesn't. So it's a great area for that. Limiting data centers to the IG districts, which largely lack that electrical infrastructure, could effectively prevent data centers and the associated electrical infrastructure investment from occurring in Hayward. Data centers will support Hayward's goal of physical stability and provide significant benefits, including property tax revenue, impact fees, and the utility users' tax revenue due to the large power use. They also facilitate privately funded electrical upgrades and infrastructure that improve grid reliability and expand the electrical capacity for other businesses looking to electrify their operations. Rather than a blanket CUP or categorical ban, we believe concerns around compatibility, operations, and community impacts can be addressed through clear performance standards, site review, and of course CEQA, an approach successfully used by other Bay Area cities. For these reasons, we respectfully encourage city staff to consider revisions that continue to allow data centers in both IP and IG districts and establish objective performance standards that protect compatibility while preserving the important physical opportunities for the city. We also encourage staff to reach out to the other property owners in the IP and IG zoned areas to make them aware of this. I know the focus has been on the downtown area, so just proactively reaching out to those property owners I think would be a good idea. Again, we support the business-friendly Hayward initiative and share the city's goals, and we look forward to continued partnership with the city of Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Our next speaker is Lala De La O.
Hi, my name is Lala. I'm here representing Honor the Earth. Honor the Earth is an indigenous-led organization. For decades, Honor the Earth has been fighting against extraction, and I am here to talk about the impacts of data centers. Elders and indigenous communities and water protectors who were at Standing Rock have stood up and sounded the alarm against the dangers of hyperscale data centers and data centers in general. However, we know that indigenous voices are not always heard, so what I have here is something that we compiled at the end of the pages. You can see all of the resources so you know where these facts are coming from. Please take a look at them. These are something that is really important right now. Not only to our community, but the broader community as a whole. We know that just last year, AI used more water than the water bottle industry globally. That is a huge amount of resources that are being extracted from Mother Earth. I do also want to mention that studies have found that communities near data centers are more likely to have cancer and miscarriages. Those are new studies that are found. All of this can be found on these facts sheets that we have created for y'all. I also want to just connect the dots with a lot of things that are happening in our community. We know that with the attacks on our migrant community, ICE is using AI, such as facial recognition, the flock system that surveils license plates and other things. But AI cannot survive without data centers. If we are implementing data centers, are we ensuring that these companies that are the data centers that we are implementing are not working with these agencies that are also tormenting our communities? This is a conversation that I would love to continue with you all. Data centers, although they sound promising, the technology to keep this going hasn't actually been invented. We need natural water to cool these things down, and nothing has been invented, although it is people, want to create a system where one day we don't have to use water to keep these data centers cold. We don't have that system yet. So until then, we have to rely on natural water, which is going to run out at some point. So I really encourage you to please read this. We have more resources on our website, and I would love to meet with any of y'all if you're more interested in just hearing more about the dangers of data centers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly Abreu.
I think staff's proposal for limiting data centers to a certain industrial classification or zoning classification is overly simplistic. I don't think that this city understands the real needs of data centers. It's being glossed over. Data centers are not just plopped down anywhere. They require very careful siting with huge electrical transmission capacity. They require big pipes full of water if you're using evaporative cooling. In fact, you had to rebuild your water line, and your water line was inadequate. You had to upsize it for their Eden Landing data center from, what was it, from 10 inches to 12 inches? Water lines are too puny. Data centers require fiber optic. Why is Virginia the world capital of data centers? Fiber optics, government demand, a whole list of reasons. Why is San Jose waiting with a long queue of data centers waiting to get plugged in? They're sitting there, and they build a data center, and it sits there for a long time waiting for electricity. Why? Because they don't have high voltage DC transmission lines coming in from the south and from the north, from Newark, feeding in from both north and south, large, gigawatt scale lines to carry the transmission. They're building those lines though. So all these things mean that you can't just come up with simple rules. It's a very, very, very technical, very carefully thought out decision by the industry of where to put these things. And you should support them on that. So that they put their centers in the very, very best most appropriate locations. And it's not just a certain zoning category, it's a lot of things. The whole, and then what is a data center? Do you even have it defined really well? Obviously, the definition should involve a huge electrical load, right? And if you have two computers on a desk, that's not a data center. It's not using enough electricity. So the electrical load has to be part of that definition, right? And a little example for you, which came out on a podcast very recently. An employee of a data center, a large data center in Memphis, Tennessee, came out and said, "Yeah, we got this thing cited because the city thought we were running a temporary event like a carnival, and they gave us the permit to build this giant data center as if it was a temporary carnival, and that's how they ran the thing." They also didn't have electricity, but they got a permit to run backup power. Of course, the giant jet engines, and they run those continuously. It was as if it was a backup system, but it's not. It's really their main source of power. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back. Okay. I don't have any public comment online. So I will return to the dais and Mayor Pro Tem Syro.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand old habits die hard. I first just want to begin by thanking staff for pulling this together. I know this represents an extraordinarily large amount of work. When we talk about economic development, sometimes it's the dry rewriting of the rules that can really transform and unleash the potential in our city. And so this is just phenomenal work. And I also want to thank the Council Economic Development Committee too, and our planning commissioners for their contributions to seeing this through to the dais. I just think that the importance of what we're talking about tonight cannot be understated. And I'm really excited to see how the city will evolve once many of these changes are pushed through. I guess I'll just start on the topic of the data centers because we had a few comments on them. We recently had a data center approved, the Stack Data Center, and the way that I'm feeling about the data center in particular, just to express some of my thoughts, I'd like to wait and see the impact it's going to have before we welcome any more data centers in, because this particular data center, as we heard, has required more water intake and is going to be using about 10,000 homes worth of electricity compared to a Hayward home. And just to put that into perspective, we have about 50,000 homes in Hayward. So 1/5 of all the homes in Hayward, that amount of electricity is going to be used by this singular data center. So before we start welcoming more in, I want to wait and see how this one works out. I do have concerns about public health. I've watched a few documentaries on either noise pollution, emissions in the neighborhoods that surround data centers. I recognize that what's being put forward here has to do with limiting where these centers can be zoned. And so in general, I'm mostly in support of almost all of the staff recommendations. Just to answer your questions, I have a few tweaks I'm going to share in a second. But my general inclination here is I want to wait and see before we allow any other data centers to come in. I recognize that you're saying they should all have a CUP and they'll come before a public hearing. The Planning Commission is not an elected body. And a data center has the potential to raise rates for ratepayers across the city of Hayward to consume the shared resource that is our drinking water across the city of Hayward. And I actually don't find it appropriate for those decisions to be made because of the scale of those decisions at the Planning Commission. And so I'd also like to see any data center question come before the full council rather than the Planning Commission for the CUP, because the impacts of that decision are simply too large for an elected body to be making on behalf of its residents. When we're talking about one building consuming 1/5 of the electricity of the city, that is a question for the elected representatives, not for appointed officials. And that's no disrespect to the Planning Commission at all. This is just about making sure that representatives are representing their constituents and that we can be held accountable for those decisions. If any data center wants to come to the city of Hayward, my advice is please do not come with an insulting community benefits agreement. San Jose had upwards of $30 million plus offered to them for some of their data centers. The data center we're building now, I think, they pulled a fast one on us. I'm not saying that I'm supportive of a data center, but I think that if a data center wants a chance on this council, they should come correct to the city of Hayward and not try to take advantage of a city. So I just want to put that out there for any data centers that might be listening. We produce recycled water, but we have a hard time finding customers for recycled water. I think if data centers want to set up in Hayward, they should be immediately able to use recycled water, because otherwise that's just a promise and a trick when they're going to be using our drinking water until they're able to actually hook up the recycled water. So there has to be minimal impact on our drinking water supply from the beginning, in my opinion, before we allow them to set up shop. I understand that we need revenue. That's why I was interested in seeing how this first data center might work out, and I'm interested in pursuing other revenue opportunities. However, if that revenue comes at the cost of us running out of water to drink, that's a devil's bargain, and it's not a bargain I'm interested in making. If that revenue in a city that prides itself on its climate activism requires installing more diesel generators, that's another bargain I'm not interested in making. There are certain hard and finite resources like the air that we breathe and the water that we drink that I'm not interested in compromising for maybe $9 million in 1 year. So I just want us to be very realistic about what the trade-offs are here. I think those are my comments specific to the data center. Just want to make sure my stance on that is very clear. As far as, would you mind putting up the questions on the screen? They're up there, but I need them here. Thank you. So overall, I'm in support of staff direction. I do think that the change on ACUs misses the mark here, though, because when I spoke in support of the ACUs, it was actually in response to the fact that we do have a problem with sidewalk vendors. And I would like to, especially as the city is looking at pursuing a business license tax, make sure that we know where they're located, they have a fixed location, we can license that location. We just heard from a lot of business owners today that they want to make sure that they're playing on a fair playing field. And I think that the purpose of the ACU is to create that pathway to make them play on a fair playing field. So by prohibiting restaurants here, I think we're actually achieving the opposite. We're blocking out a whole generation of entrepreneurs from actually doing business the right way and making it something that we can actively enforce. So I actually would like to see not sit-down restaurants, because again, we're looking at corridors here, in next to residential neighborhoods, but at least takeout restaurants be an option for the ACUs. Part of the intention of the ACUs was also to create more walkable neighborhoods. And so, I am wondering if there are 1 or 2 more neighborhoods outside of major commercial corridors like Mission, the downtown, Jackson, Tennyson, Hesperian, where we can maybe pilot something. Because this pilot, if it's already being done in commercial areas, is not the experiment that I think I'm trying to run with the ACUs. I want to see if we can create amenities in neighborhoods that exist currently that are dense. I know that maybe an ACU up in the Hayward Hills is not the right decision, but there are dense apartment blocks in South Hayward that might benefit from having an ACU somewhere in the cross-section of a busy intersection. Let's see. Very excited about the temporary use permits. I think that I had a question around the daycare streamlining. Is that only for Mission in the downtown, or is that streamlining citywide?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because people need childcare close to them, right? We don't want them to have to drive across the city. Like, oh, great, there's 20 daycare centers all in one place. We need them spread out. Okay. And then for limited entertainment, does that include things like stand-up comedy as well? How broad are we being, or how specific are we being? I just want to make sure it's kind of inclusive of and not exclusive of everything else.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of listing the uses that we think would be appropriate, but it did come up during Planning Commission that maybe it would be better to list the uses that it excludes. That way it's more flexible and can kind of evolve with the times.
Yeah.
So that's something we're considering as we take our feedback that we've gotten and actually develop the code itself.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll trust you to iterate on that process. And separately, you know, I was happy to see the process improvement of, you know, after 3 rounds of review, sitting down with everybody to figure out what is going on and why is this project getting approved. I also really appreciated seeing the metric of, you know, 80% of projects taking less than 3 rounds. That's a great metric because I think as a city, we've struggled to set up useful performance metrics on how to improve our service to our residents, and that's a great one. That 80% number I'm hoping to see go up, you know, sometime in the future, and it's a thing for us to consider as a council as we're thinking through the success of our development services department is, are we improving that percentage year over year and making sure that more projects are approved in under 3 rounds of review. And I understand that sometimes that can be on the applicant's end. They're just submitting a messy application. But there are corrections, I think, in the process that can discourage messy behavior too. And so it really gets us to think holistically about how to get what we need from the applicant and vice versa. So I just wanted to say thank you for surfacing that metric. Thanks for adjusting that process. And I hope to see that percentage increase over time. And then my last comment here was just around the dashboard that you were talking about working with IT on. I think that's going to be very helpful. I also just want to, you know, and I'm going to say my opinion and you correct me if it's already being done this way. But when I hear dashboard, sometimes I worry about contracting with a unique software provider to create a complex tool, when sometimes what you need is a Google Sheet and a few columns and some colored labels, right? And everybody has shared access to that, and when somebody updates it on their computer, it's updated everywhere else. And so I just want to make sure that we're not taking a bloated approach. Dashboard can be very lightweight or it can be very streamlined, and so I just want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Still in the process of developing said dashboard,
Okay.
but in my mind, I'm looking at something that is easy, that pulls from existing data sources,
Got it.
And doesn't involve a lot of extra staff time or involvement of additional software. So
Got it.
trying to work within the means we have and
Yep.
with the systems we already have to provide and just highlight that data and bring it out so
Yeah.
that it's a little more visible and easily digestible.
Absolutely.
So that's the intent.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that
And
you're
I'll-
operating in the lean
I'll
fashion.
just quickly add to that. If
Yeah.
any of you have not been to our permit center in the last several days, our IT team has just made like a totally new software that they built from scratch that has people check into our permit center. It's a whole process where we can track like who's coming into the permit center. People can see where they are in line.
Yeah.
So even though it's something we're making in-house, it looks very professional and something that we can use
Okay.
internally to track. We can share with you guys, and potentially we could also share with the public.
Okay, great. I think I'll wrap up my comments there. I know that I've been, you know, pounding the dais for the past year saying, let's get out of our own way. And I think that this really goes a long way in achieving that goal. So I just want to say thank you and good work on putting this together. I'm excited to see its final iteration and get moving on a lot of these updates.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you for the report. I just had a couple of questions and comments. Wanted to know on the slide where you're going to improve efficiency for permitting, how many projects would you say that are coming to Hayward that are revenue generating businesses? Like an estimate.
So like projects getting business licenses or the projects coming
Or
for like use permits?
For use permits, anything that's approved by your department that might be going through other different divisions for permit approval. and building
So the only types of permits that we manage for new businesses would be things that need to apply for use permits. For those, I would say we probably approve we take in maybe 15 or so a year, 20, something in that range. Does that sound about right? Okay. In addition to that, though, the number of businesses that we process, because any business that comes into the city, we also have to take a look at that to see if that's operating in a zoning district that it's allowed. That's, I mean, hundreds. I have no idea. Sarah maybe knows. Maybe Mary knows. I'll defer to others for that.
We're going to all crowd up here. Are you talking specifically about like sales tax and that kind of revenue? Okay, so not just like
anything that's
fees.
going to bring revenue to the general fund.
Yeah, so I think that was one of the steps that in particular you guys were looking at and having
Okay.
economic development prioritize some of these, but I'll let Sarah speak to that.
Correct. So
Chief Economic Development Officer and myself are working on generating a list of those projects, some of which are in process already in various stages, whether it's going through entitlement or through building permit process or under construction. And then there's a handful of projects that we're tracking right now that we've had early conversations with, but they haven't yet submitted an application.
Okay.
And all 15 that we're looking at right now are in various stages, but they're all identified as projects that are anticipated to generate revenue or jobs for the city. And that is the focus of that particular list. And that's separate from all of the other projects that, that staff is processing. But we've got about 15 or so right now that we're trying to track really carefully because of those benefits.
Okay, great. And I'm with Mayor Pro Tem. I was just going to say the same thing is I'm fine with the spreadsheet right now, just to know where they're at, which department they're at, where are they stuck, why are they stuck, how do we get them unstuck. Spreadsheet's fine, and that can be brought to Economic Development Committee and then share it with the council would be helpful, just so we know what's happening with those businesses, because we do get questions from the community about particular businesses, or it would be great to know if a business is giving us feedback to know where they are at in their process and if it's on their end or our end or whatever. So that would be helpful. The other questions I had about the practices, I don't get a lot of complaints about zoning and the uses unless it's a bigger project. It's more of the practices, so I'm happy to see that the 3 rounds is what you usually see. And then I know that the business economic development white glove service they used to say a while back, I'm not sure how that is it still called that?
It's the business concierge program,
concierge,
and yes,
that's
it is
right.
still in action. And so most of the business concierge clients are those same 15 projects that we're trying to focus.
Okay.
And make sure that we're really clear on where they're at in the process and to keep those moving.
Okay. I would say for the Economic Development Committee, I would just like those projects. Any project that's part of the Business Concierge Program should be giving us updates every Economic Development Committee meeting. And then also wanted to understand a little bit about why they're stuck. Is it on their end in terms of their designer? Is it in terms of their construction? Just the market, whatever it is, we just want to know the reasons why. And then next, I will talk a little bit about the data center questions that I have. Would like to know if we are in connection with some of the agencies that was mentioned in public comment about water usage, energy usage, and wanted to know if we could also look at what the Department of Energy is recommending in terms of jurisdictions that are dealing with these types of uses and applications, and also concern mainly about energy storage and how we're protecting if we were to have a data center that's going to require energy storage, if they're going to install solar to reduce energy off the grid. Just thinking about what happened in Moss Landing. I want to know more about what happened there, because we should also be looking at that as part of projects, so we don't have data centers that are going to rely on the grid, our grid, because that is something that the Department of Energy has been saying, is that more companies need to also look at building their own microgrids in order to address the demand of data centers. So if a data center is coming, are they coming with that energy storage is the question I have. I'm also hearing that there are some data centers or companies that are looking at recycled water. I don't know how close we are with that technology. I know in public comment we've heard that that's a promise, but I don't know how fast are we in using that recycled water.
So I can speak broadly to those. I processed both the last 2 data center projects that came through. The Hines project, just for context, was actually located in an IG zoning district, so it was the Zoox manufacturing that was located right next to it. Okay. The Stack data center that most recently went through was located in IP zoning district, so we've seen both. The CEC, the California Energy Commission, for data centers that are over 50 megawatts, they're considered small thermal plants just because of the number of generators that are on sites. They're literally considered thermal power plants, and they have to apply for a small power plant exemption through the CEC. So they process all of the CEQA documents for those projects. So they're involved in that sense. That was mentioned, I think, in some of the documentation that you guys provided. They don't weigh in. They leave it to local jurisdictions as to where they should be located. So even though they're doing the environmental review on behalf of the jurisdiction, they're still leaving it to the local jurisdiction to say what's appropriate in terms of zoning, where they should be located. In terms of the question about recycled water, we can start there. Both data centers that we've had here in Hayward, the two recent ones, the recycled water question has come up. Neither one has been able to connect to our purple pipe infrastructure. Specifically for the one that's the Stack data center that's south of 92, it's because our infrastructure doesn't stretch south of 92, and it would be prohibitively expensive for it to do so, for like the project to pay for it to do so. It's something the city is definitely interested in a future phase of the project. It's something that the data centers have expressed interest in themselves, but it's more of like our infrastructure in the phase that has been installed is not in the right places to where the data centers are located at this time in Hayward. And then for your question about having them be off the grid, I will just say, in my limited experience with our two data centers in Hayward, it seems like the technology is far from that, from getting to the point where we will be seeing data centers that are not having to rely on a connection to the grid. Data centers essentially can't go offline. They have to be online at all times. So that's why they have a connection. They're usually either right next to a substation, they have a transformer yard on site, they have high voltage lines that are connecting them to a nearby substation, and then they have these huge emergency generators that make sure no matter what happens, the power to the data center is always there. So there have been, I've also read articles about like alternative types of fuel. Fuel cells is something that I've read a lot. Things that aren't as environmentally intense as some of the current technologies, but it's not something I have seen in projects that have come forth in Hayward. I'll say that at least.
Yeah. Okay, and what happens when data centers leave? What happens to the community if we build a data center? I would just say a trillionaire is looking at satellites to put data centers up in space, and then we have the data centers that are still here on land. What happens to that land? What happens to the community when it happens?
It's a good question. Honestly, data centers they're not new, but the kind of influx of data centers is somewhat new because of the extreme need for them due to like AI and the intense computing needs that result from that. So we haven't yet had to deal with like decommissioning of data centers to see what that looks like, but they're very specific buildings, they're very big buildings. They have these huge generators that are on site. So it's not something that naturally would be easy to convert to a different use. So I mean, it's a good question, and it's one, honestly, that we as communities, not just Hayward, have not really had to grapple with yet.
Yeah, because I'm hearing that technology can be as soon as 10 to 20 years, which can go by really fast. So, okay, well, I am interested in looking at data centers at the full council when they do come up, and would like to also look at community benefit packages as well. But I am generally, I would say I still have concerns about them, and wanted to know if we can actually have the sustainability committee review the impacts of data centers, but also look at community benefits packages in other cities comparable to Hayward, and maybe we can have that presented to the full council. And then if infrastructure committee can look at what is happening in general with recycled water and tapping into recycled water, if that's a possibility, maybe we can look at that as part of the upgrades that we're doing at the plant when that comes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I also am excited about a lot of these changes, and I'm in favor of most of the recommendations that have come forward. In particular, I appreciate the simplified permitting process, including the zoning codes and maps, because I know my days on the Planning Commission, those things could get quite complicated. So anything we can do to further simplify that, I think, just brings more access and equity to the people who need to be dealing with these documents and this information. I do also agree with more strict massage parlor permitting processes requiring a CUP, so I'm great with that. Regarding an ACU, can that be a converted garage? It could be, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And then for the entertainment permit program, I also like, kind of that list being what it doesn't include versus trying to create an exhaustive list of what should be included, because I really want to see us, be purposeful about activating youth activities and experiential type activities, because I think that that's just an area where we're constantly leaving Hayward to have to, engage in those type of activities. So whatever we can do with that would be great. Now, when we talk about sort of the changes to what we're calling an event space, can you sort of give us some examples of what type of expanded spaces these can be? It wouldn't necessarily be like somebody being able to rent out their garage for some sort of event, right? Because I heard some kind of concerns around that. So what would be some examples of where you can see this expanded, this expansion being applied?
It's basically, I would say, a clarification of the code. In real life, in real parlance of our code, we have places that we call cultural facilities. We have places called community centers. Those places get rented out for weddings, for quinceañeras, for baby showers, for things like that. And then we have places called banquet halls, which, like, for all intents and purposes, these are used for the same things, and we treat them differently. So we talked with the police department, with Detective Wright sitting in the back here, and she said, really, like, in terms of patrol, we see it more as a time thing. When you have events at a community center, at a cultural facility, they're ending at a certain time. We're not having issues with them. We're not having calls for service. So really, for us, if there's a definition where you're saying, if you're renting out spaces within these cultural facilities, within these community centers, and you're just limiting the time that these events can end, we're not running into issues with that. It's more if there is something that's a dedicated event space, a dedicated banquet hall that is allowing events to go later, that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes there can be more concerns around that. So that's why we'd want that higher level of review with the CUP, where maybe we wouldn't need that with the other types. So that's our thinking around adding some of that clarifying language in the definitions, and creating that distinction is based on PD's experience regulating these activities, we'll say.
Got it. And that would be that 11 o'clock time frame. That makes a lot of sense,
Yes.
and I'm supportive of that as well. And, as it relates to the data centers, I also, have a lot of concern and caution, just, not only what we heard today, but just sort of on the general environmental and community impacts that data centers have, especially in small cities like Hayward. I know that, we're not necessarily considered small, but I still think of us as, a little town. And I know that data centers can have some pretty big implications. So I want us to be, very considerate and cautious anytime that we're considering bringing data centers into Hayward. And as I think about our options of where to locate them, I really want that decision to rest kind of in a fuller context with the council discussion around what is the project, what is the community benefit, more particularly, what are the potential community and environmental impacts, and how are those going to be mitigated to a standard that we are okay with and that we could feel comfortable going out and standing behind as we talk to our constituents. And that's going to be a hard bar, but I do want us to not necessarily be arbitrarily restrictive. So I would say let's bring back any anytime where we're going to be looking at a data center, I agree that CUP should come back in front of the full council, and I think the council should consider if IP or IG are the appropriate areas and everything that comes with the implications of bringing a data center to our community. So that's where I stand with that, and I could not agree more that if, you know, that we also need to create some pretty robust performance standards for our data centers. And you know, we owe that to the community to do so. And we also need to require, and I think, you know, all of my colleagues are on the same page with this, but pretty substantial community benefits if we do ever decide that we want to bring another data center into Hayward, and especially because of what we heard from Councilmember Andrews and Syrup, just with all of the uncertainty and the impacts to the environment, to water, and to all of these other resources that we need to be stewards of, not just for, this generation, but generations to come. So I would like to see a more clear definition of what data centers are. And I also want to see those CUPs brought back in front of council. And those are my comments related to data centers. Now, for ACUs, I do want to see potential pilots in the Tennyson area too, not just downtown. I think we spend a lot of time and a lot of focus on downtown, and it'd be nice for us to, move into other, areas of the city. I also, we said that we want to restrict kind of restaurants within these ACUs, and I'm not sure I agree with that neither. That's just my own view. If we're going to go, and if these restaurants or businesses want to get the right permits, if they want to get the right health licenses, if they want to get the right food handling permits, why not? So I don't agree that we should just have a blanket no. I think that if they want to go through the right process and they want to be a tax-paying business just like anybody else, they should have the right to set up shop in an ACU just like, these other small businesses and uses are. And then my last question, I really like the idea too of looking at how we're reducing the burden, not just the administrative burden, but the financial burden of these permits and processes on our community. So I know we talked about reducing one of, I think it's a temporary use permit from about $2,000 to something less than that. I am also in favor of that too, right? Anything we can do just to expedite the process, to reduce the cost where it makes sense, and to reduce the staff burden, I think is smart business for the city and the right thing to be doing for our community. So thank you for all of the hard work that you guys have put into this, and I hope my comments have been constructive in helping us look at how does we want to shape this going forward. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the good work. I know you've been working on this for quite a long time, because we've had these discussions going back several years now, so I appreciate the work that you brought forward. I like the idea of the ACUs for amenities. I'm not so sure about coffee shops, restaurants, and grocery stores. I'm a little concerned about the impact that might have on the businesses that are, paying the bigger fees and permits and retail space in order to do that already. So I'm a little concerned about that. On the other hand, I don't want to say a flat no. And so I'm really wondering if, Councilmember Bonilla mentioned, if there's a middle ground way of kind of looking at that. For example, I think at some point way in the past, there used to be like a family might have basically a neighborhood dining kind of thing, and so basically one family cooking dinner for the neighborhood, or making that kind of an option. And so if somebody wanted to do something like that, I don't really see any reason why we ought to go against that. But I don't want to turn this into another, pardon the pun here, the street fight about street vending in the neighborhoods. I think that's what we might be up against if we just, blanket approve this type of ACU. So I just want us to be careful going forward with that. I do like the idea of organizing a meeting after 3 rounds of going back and forth. I know that's, we've heard that from some developers about they kind of feel like they're stuck in the mud at that point, and sometimes it's hard to figure out where the stickiness is. And you guys have as much expertise as the developers do, And so coming together and kind of figuring that out. And of course, if any of us can be any help with that, just let us know. But I do like that idea. As to data centers, I'm not really clear why we would want to exclude them from the IP zone. I mean, I understand some of the arguments for wanting to do that, but I'm actually open to having a conversation with the data center developers and talking about the various concerns. So if traffic is a concern, which it shouldn't be, I mean, yes during construction, but no once they're up in operation, because they, for the square footage, they have, just a fraction of the personnel there. But things like power options, I know that that's a big concern. I would certainly not want to allow jet engines operating. I know that's been something that's being considered. I've also read in some research that I did that some folks are talking about repurposing the nuclear power plants from surplus naval vehicles or even contracting to, more to the point, things like small nuclear reactors. And I have to imagine there's a lot of safety concerns around that. I mean, I know SNRs are, kind of touted as being super safe, but, I'll believe it when you show me kind of thing. And they used to say that about 3 Mile Island, and I think we all know what happened there. And of course, Chernobyl was designed to be explosion-proof, right? I don't know if any of you have looked into the history of that, but, God help the folks that planned that development. So my point is, anyway, we do want to be careful but open-minded in terms of, considering what options are available. I understand as regards water options, there are closed-loop systems, and there are new technologies that people are experimenting with to eliminate water as a waste. And so I think we just want to stay open-minded with our developers about that. And bottom line, good work on this. I like the progress that we're making on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all turns out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for all of the work. I mean, I love some of the metrics, especially, making the code down from 8 sections in the code to 1. I think that is an amazing improvement that I didn't even realize it was 8 sections that they had to flip back and forth to, but then got to 1. So I'm really thrilled about that, because I do feel like we're like as a society, we're like in a flux, post-COVID, you still don't have people coming out behaving the same way that they did before. Obviously, inflation is terrible, the economy is terrible, and I think we're all trying to figure out how to revitalize spaces in downtown in a way that will bring people back. Like, what is it now? Is it boba shops? Is it restaurants? Is it bars? Like, I don't know, and I think doing all of this work is to simplify things, to make it easier for businesses to come, so that we can find out what is going to be popular for the communities to come. Because I think, all over people are trying to reimagine how we do this work. So thank you for all of the simplification that you're doing to make this happen. On the questions, as far as the ACUs, let me go back to my the questions. Wait, here are they? Do you have them up? Okay. Sorry, I have all these different pages up. Thank you. I'm going to start with the ACUs. So I'm really happy about the ACUs. I think we should expand it. Maybe Tennyson, maybe up and down A Street. There's already a lot of businesses sort of operating that way. I'm also hesitant on the restaurants. I mean, just after what we heard tonight, we have this battle going on with street vendors and restaurants, and I think to add something else that they might be concerned about. I'm not, right now I like what I see here. I don't want to go beyond a takeout coffee shop personally, until we're able to do something to satisfactorily satisfy the businesses where the street vendors are concerned. So that does make me nervous, because if anyone can open their garage, and while maybe they are supposed to get a permit, we see what's happening with the street vendor situation, they are not. So if it's an allowable use, and now anyone can up at their garage, and anyone going by with enforcement wouldn't know whether that is permitted or not because it is allowed use, makes me nervous. I think that's sort of going back, that's going, to me, that feels like a further hit on restaurants right now. And so I like the way this is. I mean, as long as it's not totally exhaustive, right? Like, I can imagine like a ceramic studio would be a nice thing to open in a garage, like for, kids to learn pottery and stuff like that. So this isn't exhaustive, right? This is just...
It's not exhaustive. The way we've kind of structured the the uses is like if it's a pottery studio, something like that, that might be considered like tutoring because you're teaching kids how to do
I'll
that.
take
So
it.
we've kind of tried to word it to be inclusive of big categories of uses.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that sounds good. And not that I don't know anyone that's doing that. I just envision that kind of, that would be a cute thing to walk down the neighborhood and get to go and do with someone. Let's see, the limited entertainment, I'm fine with that, and the event space, changes. I'm fine with all that. Because the limited entertainment, well, these allow like a pop-up in in a space that maybe was supposed to be something else, but you can pop up really quickly and sell, like we talked about last time, Labubus for 3 months. Will this make it easier to do something like that?
That would fall more under our temporary use permit that we're working
Okay,
on.
good. Very happy about all that. Okay, and let me just, before I get to data centers, because obviously that's a big topic tonight. Okay, yeah, otherwise, thank you so much for the outreach that you did in the analysis. I think it showed, that, and looking at best practices, of course, I was really glad about that, to see what other communities are doing. I think, this is, I'm excited to see what this might do to help people, make it easier for people to start businesses in Hayward, so thank you. On the data center issue, I find myself very frustrated that we're all aghast up here. We all knew that Stack Center was coming, and any one of us could have pulled it, and we did not. And I was very, very interested in that topic. I watched the Planning Commission do all the work. They asked all these questions about the environmental factors, about that diesel yard and the water and all of it, and all of those questions were answered at the time satisfactorily to staff and to, from the applicant and to the Planning Commission and to us apparently, because none of us pulled it. And I mean, maybe we should all fault ourselves because we're all learning more about it, but I think I'm concerned right now that the cat is out of the bag. Like, we have already done it. Like, there was no pulling a fast one. This was allowable by use, by what our code said. And everyone worked hard. People went back. They tried to get more community benefits out of it. We did look at the San Jose, one where they got a lot of benefits. And there was an explanation that, well, they're still doing a lot of infrastructure work. I'm specifically talking about the Stack Center. And that was satisfactory. So this is something that we all allowed to happen. Now, I don't think we should go demonizing data centers. This is the way of the world. I'm sorry. Like, we are an in-demand area, an in-demand location for data centers. And I think that's going to continue. We shouldn't fault property owners and landowners that want to bring this sort of lucrative business to our city. So I don't think that's the issue. The issue is we just need a very defined code that what a data center looks like. I think to the public commenter's point, you have to just define it. Define it. What does that look like? You have to do a certain kind of water. You have to have a certain kind of backup energy yard. I know like the Stack Center committed to renewable energy. They have to commit to renewable energy. Whatever that looks like, we can't sort of stand back and say, oh my God, the environmental factor, when we allowed the biggest data center that's probably going to come to Hayward, it's already approved. Like, that is done. So now let's just be very careful about how we approve any new ones that come our way. I don't think we should have a ban on approving them. I think we should probably look at a CUP or just a very strict defined set of standards and what a data center looks like, because we have been approving them based on a data processing center, an office space. That was allowed because we didn't have code for it. So no one's pulling a fast one. No one's trying to get away with anything. It was what was allowed here in Hayward. So we all should have been sort of maybe paying more attention before we did what we did. So let's define it. I mean, we can sort of halt until we have a really strict defined, what a data center looks like. I mean, I think all of that is fine, to do that. I mean, I think, to the point of them being self-sustaining or the SNRs that Councilmember Goldstein was talking about, my understanding is those are years in the future. I mean, this is the model, the way it's going to look for, 10 to 20 years. I do sit on the AVA Community Energy Board. We've talked a lot about this. And, they all sort of agree that that kind of auxiliary energy source for data center is a long way off, especially in California. It will be a long time before Californians allow nuclear, SNRs, I think Councilmember Goldstein talked about. So I just wanted to let's just define them, and maybe in defining them, maybe in the work we do and talking to experts on it and talking to best practices around the region, maybe we find out we have a value that actually it really is, it really is the water suck, it really is the emission, danger that we should worry about. But I don't think we know that yet to sort of go demonizing or worrying about what could be, unless we just have to know, I guess is what I'm saying. So for now, I mean, the Stack Center, we said that one's already in IP, right? I mean, that's the biggest one, so I don't see the point in now saying only in the IG. I don't think we should do that. Like, we can make it a CUP for the IP zone and the IG zone. That's fine with me. But yeah, I find myself frustrated with, because I was very interested in that one on the Planning Commission, and I do think even staff, I'm sorry, but even you all answered these questions. There wasn't a big worry about the emissions, and now to talk about that 28 generator yard in that facility now and say it's speculative potential environmental hazard, like there was no concern, very little concern during that Planning Commission process and review, because I was asking in the background, I was talking to planning commissioners, I was talking to the applicant. Everyone seemed to satisfy themselves that there was not a huge emissions issue with that generator yard. So to talk about it now as a future problem for any new data centers does feel kind of just disingenuous, I guess is what I'm saying. So I just want us to be careful what we did up here and what we've already proven, what we're saying to future applicants. Like, I don't want to demonize them when we need to do the work. We have to do the work, and I think we should do that. So I'm not in favor of putting in IG, because there's just a bigger discussion to have at this point, rather than start, isolating them. So that's all I have to say. Obviously, I felt a little emotional about this one, so thank you.
Thank you. And I see that Mayor Pro Tem Syrup has a very short, brief comment to make.
I'll see what I can do. Thank you. I think just riffing off the comments around the data center, I think we are learning as a city, and that's okay. There were comments that came up. We recognize how often our planning commission and even our council meetings are attended by folks. And this is an evolving discussion. So I think it's okay, to your point, not to necessarily demonize the data centers, but just to be clear, I think, I'm indifferent about the zoning regulation itself, but I really think it's reasonable to say let's wait and see, especially if this is the biggest one. I don't think the argument here is that we already allowed the biggest one in, so who cares if we let in a bunch of smaller ones? And I don't think that's what you're saying either, but I want to be clear. I would really just like to wait and see, so we're not speculating either way, right? If maybe there is no environmental impact and we'll find out and it's not a big deal, maybe there is a very large one, but I'd rather wait and see than welcome in a bunch more. And, I'm feeling like some of the comments may have been directed in response to some of the things I said. So I'm not over here advocating for a ban on all these data centers either. I just would like to see some more information. I think it's okay for us as elected leaders to hear new information and say, wait a minute, let's reconsider this. And one of the reasons I do want us to talk about this as a council and not just let it lie at the Planning Commission is because this is the first time we've had a chance to talk about this as a council. I haven't had a chance to weigh in on this either, and I've had thoughts the entire time, but I put my trust in the Planning Commission. I'm not trying to be a zealot and say absolutely no data centers, so here we go, we have a big one. Let's wait and see how it goes. So I just, I kind of want to temper some of how I was feeling in response to the comments emotionally, only because I'm not trying to come across as a zealot. I'm trying to be very even-keeled about this too. And then I just wanted to make one more soft pitch around ACUs allowing for restaurants. When we talk about our approach to housing strategy as a city, we are trying to build housing for all income levels. We are trying to create housing opportunities for all income levels. A successful business like Casa del Toro pays over $10,000 a month in rent. A sidewalk vendor is not going to be able to afford a downtown brick and mortar location. And I recognize maybe they don't start downtown, but I do think that we should have commercial rent opportunities for all income levels. If we are not creating a transitional pathway for folks to get off the streets, then we're effectively just trying to crush informal competition. And I understand that's maybe what some of our business owners want. I've heard from other business owners that don't like sidewalk vendors that they would be happy as long as they operated legally, because this is about public health, safety, and having a fair playing ground. And I think if we're not, as a city, creating that fair playing ground, then we're just gonna do what people consider to be the definition of insanity, which is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We have admitted tonight that it is very complex to enforce on sidewalk vendors. We are using a lot of police resources and code enforcement resources and putting employees in harm's way to try to crack down on sidewalk vendors who will leave and then show up 10 minutes later. It's not an effective way of solving the problem. And so I really see with this ACU policy as another way of let's figure out if we can maybe solve the problem in this direction. And I understand there's a risk of, are we gonna create a third party now where it's sidewalk vendors, ACU vendors and business owners, but there is no pathway currently or transitional pathway to get a sidewalk vendor into a brick and mortar. The rent is simply too high. So I just wanted to name that if our strategy is to create housing for all income levels, I think the same approach should be taken for our small business owners. I just wanted to make an appeal there in case any of my other colleagues felt similarly.
Okay, thank you. We still have two more items on the agenda, and it's 9:20, and I don't want, and I haven't spoken yet.
I marked. myself.
And I don't think Councilmember Zermeño has spoken, so I will, and I didn't see your name on the thing, that's why I didn't call you. But I will call on Councilmember Zermeño, and in the spirit of spirited discourse, I will allow 2 more comments, and then we can, and I'd like to proceed. But Councilmember Zermeño.
Hey, you know me, I don't take a long time, and I'm last on the agenda, at least on this speaking, but I like this because it's economic growth and it's a way of structural change for the future, so that's tremendous. A couple of things that that really impress me, and I want to make sure that they mentioned, is the activating unused properties downtown. Good on the pop-ups. I think that's tremendous. Great on the simplification, because one of the things that I've seen is that some of our permits take a little longer than they should. We're still waiting for a BART truck, BART wagon over on B Street. We're still waiting on Maple and Main, Main and B Street. So that's very, very important. Cultural facilities, big yes. No more massage parlors, not one bit. Forget it. Take them off the list. Their rezoning is excellent. Let's see, a couple of things just on the data centers. In my mind, they are the future. Have you researched what other cities have done besides San Jose? I'm sure there are others. And I want to make sure that I understand exactly where they are permitted. We have 2 industrial areas and the IP. So it says that they are not permitted in certain areas. Which areas are they not permitted?
Currently, they're permitted anywhere office uses are permitted, which is basically anywhere in the city, any commercial or industrial area. In practice, we're seeing them in the IG district and the IP district. So what staff has proposed is just to limit them to the IG district with the CUP, but what I'm hearing from the council is to consider allowing them in both the IP and the IG with the CUP, so there's still a level of discretion.
Yes, that would be it. And then, of course, I do agree with my colleagues
Split
that
feelings on that.
this is, we just approved the biggest one, and any other data center should come to us, in my mind, just because of what ramifications they have on the community. I really would like to see them using gray water as opposed to clear water, so that's something very important. Okay, so we need to decide on that. Let's see, ACUs. I want to make sure that ACUs do not badly affect the 352 eateries that we have in Hayward. One or another, we need to. So if somebody wants to open an ACU on Tennyson Road, is it going to hinder or help us clean or do away or control the street vendors that we have on Tennyson Road? So the liquor store at Grand and Jackson, if there's a ACU, how does it affect him? Because he sells snacks, and maybe somebody's going to be in front of his shop selling snacks, so that's not a good ACU usage. Okay, let's see. So I like everything about this. Good on the new permit types. Your 4 questions are excellent. So good job, and keep up the good work. And anything else comes up in order to improve our economic future, please let us know and keep us in tune and work for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach has asked for a very
Just really
brief
quick. I didn't weigh in on, the Planning Commission versus us seeing it. I still want to see the Planning Commission vet it, just like, right, with cannabis, I mean, they have to come, right, they vet it, have the discussions, then it ultimately comes to us. Because I do think those discussions are really helpful. We get to see, like, the applicant a couple of times in the Planning Commission meetings before it comes to us. So I agree, I would like it to come to us, but I still think the Planning Commission should do their work on these, personally.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Bonilla has asked for a very brief.
Yes,
moment.
it's going to be very brief. I just, I don't see the fundamental difference between a coffee shop selling coffee, that's going to then end up selling a bagel, that's going to end up selling a muffin, versus us saying, let's just be real about what it is and permit restaurants to go into these places. You know, I don't think that there's an expectations that our street vendors are going to go from street vending to a brick and mortar. There's transitional ways of doing that, like going to a food truck, and that's permitted in the city. That can be mobile, that can go other places. So I just really want us to think deeply as a council about, are we going to say we're not going to allow any more restaurants in the city and be prohibitive on restaurants generally because we have an issue with street vending in certain pockets of our community that need to be addressed? And is the way of addressing that prohibiting, I think, innovative spaces that contribute to walkable and multimodal communities and that allow people to have spaces that they can work and live and play all at the same time? So I will continue to advocate for these ACUs to also be permitted, tax-paying, health and safety compliant businesses if that's what they so choose to be. And I think that we need to be prepared if it's a coffee shop or if it's a taco shop or if it's whatever, someone who wants to go and serve waffles in the morning, because that's not going to compete with what we heard today. But I just want to make sure that we're being inclusive, we're being expansive, and we're being guided by the city's priorities, not by immediate pressure that we're getting today that might cause us to be short-sighted in what the opportunities are for us to create walkable and inclusive communities in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A couple things. I don't want to repeat everything and with all the other issues. I just want to focus on ACUs and, you know, this is my first point is data centers. Out of all the discussion that has happened tonight, I just wanted to sort of put this into a little perspective and a little context. You know, that we had a couple of months ago or a month ago, we had an applicant that came before us. She had a 15,000 square foot cannabis dispensary. And, you know, and she went through the planning, she had the permitting process and the planning commission, and then we require all dispensaries come to us. There's 4 permits, and, you know, they come and we require that. Here we have a 200,000 square foot center facility, 77 megawatt facility, and it stopped at the planning commission. And so, you know, I agree. I have to say I agree with Councilmember Roach. It's built, it's getting built. We're getting it, and I would like for any future data centers, it needs to come to the council. I mean, a 200,000 square foot facility, I mean, for it not to come to the council, and we put this 15,000 square foot, you know, retailer through the ringer up here, you know, it was, you know, so I think let's, you know, and I should say that when it comes to us, you know, for whatever the case may be, at least when it comes to us, we can have these and we can have these debates and we can have these discussions, and we can get community benefits. If the community benefits are too small, then we can, you know, I mean, we've done it here before in other cases and so forth. So now I do know that you had mentioned, Ms. Blanton, about you're hearing us that we want them in both zones rather just one zone. I would prefer just one zone in that one particular zone. I don't know if you heard that up here from anyone else up here, but.
No, the Stack Center's already in the other zone.
Yeah, okay, so, but I guess let's you know, well, yeah, I think bring the CUP to the full council, and I think we can have these debates and we can have these arguments and work it out through there. I mean, I think, so that's data center, and I'll be done with those comments. ACUs. I mean, if we're being real about it, we can't even control street vendors around here. And we're thinking about allowing vendors open up restaurants in garages, and we want them to be permitted, health permitted, safety permitted, I mean, we can't even get what we have right now on the streets legal. And I should also say this, well, the street vendors don't move either because they keep going to the same place. But the thing is this, the thing is this, we also have to be very clear on how we define street vendors, right? Because the definition or the street vendor, we're conflating two groups of people. You know, I don't think you're going to get an argument up here that we're anti, abuelita out there making tamales or burritos to sell to, the neighborhood. I don't think you're going to get a disagreement up here, right? However, if you have a network of, if you have a guy out in San Jose, or if you have a company out in Tracy who brings and recruits, 30 neighbors in a neighborhood and says, hey, you guys, you're gonna sell hot chocolate, you're gonna sell coffee and pastries, and you're gonna sell burritos and and have an entire network of illegal ACU vendors, that's what's gonna happen. I mean, and we don't even have control of what's happening right now, and that's what's happening. I mean, we just shut down a warehouse that wasn't, there was 25 trailers in there, So, I mean, and I mean, there's a lady in a neighborhood that I drive by often on my way to a dog park, and sells menudo out her front yard, out the front door. Councilmember Cermeño knows the house I'm talking about. And so, and anyways, I think I don't want to include restaurants, and the reason why I don't want to include restaurants in this is because we don't have a handle on what it is that we're trying to regulate right now. And I should also say, level the playing field. We have leveled the playing field. To get a business license for a street vendor is free. All you have to do is come to City Hall. I mean, we have leveled the playing field. I can't think about more equitable. We've made it free. And not only will we make it free, not only have we made it free, but we will walk you through the whole process. We will usher you through Director Bowser's office. We will walk you through Paul Nguyen's office. We'll help you find a place. I mean, we have gone, I think far beyond, our duty to make them street legal. I don't know, but make them legal and make them competitive. And so, anyways, I don't know. I know that I don't know if Ms. Bowser is keeping score over there, but in terms of if we're 5-2 or 3-4, I don't know where you're at on this, but and I should also say, the ACUs. Let's be careful what we ask for. We're going to have people, we're going to have parking issues. People are going to start parking. And then we're going to have, parking creep. You're going to have, maybe 2 cars one time, 3 cars. And then, you're going to get someone who makes some really, really good tacos or really good pastries. And then next thing you know it, you're going to have double parking. You're going to have triple parking. And then you're going to have, it's, we're dealing with that right now. In neighborhood relationships. What will happen with neighborhood relationships between neighbors? When you have a neighbor that doesn't want double parked in front of their house. We have people right now that are putting cones in front of their house to prohibit people from parking in front of their house. I mean, and they get mad at us when we enforce, you can't put cones in front of your house to reserve parking for your clients. And I can only see this happening, and then what that will do to neighborhoods and neighbors. I mean, everyone will. Anyways, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer on this. I mean, listen, I am pro entrepreneur. I am pro, as the next guy up here. But I'm just let's get a handle on what we need to get a handle on when it comes to some of this food stuff until we allow the other stuff. Anyways, those are my two comments on the other two. The permitting stuff, great. I think that's great. Stopping events at 11 o'clock, that's great. I think that's a great. I know that will be real easy on the police department when they have to go and perhaps shut down an unruly event at some facility. So, anyways, I appreciate that. Okay. With all that said, I wanted to thank everybody up here, and I think I agreed with some, I disagreed with others, and but I appreciate that, and hopefully you have what you need, Ms. Bowser.
Yes, thank you,
And
everyone.
Ms. Riddle and Ms.
Thank you.
Blanton. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so before I move on, I wanted to check in with the council. Do you guys need a 5-minute break, 3-minute break? No? Keep moving? Okay, all right. Okay, so I will move on to legislative business, item number 7, which is, did I say? Oh, item 6, yes. I didn't say, hold on a second. Item number 6, which is PH 26-002, moratorium on new massage businesses, adoption of an interim urgency ordinance pursuant to Government Code Section 65858, extending the temporary moratorium on new massage businesses in Hayward for up to 10 months and 15 days, and finding that action exempt from environmental review. And this is going to come to us by way of the city attorney. But let me ask this: this already came to us at an earlier meeting, and if there are no objections, I'd like to forego staff report and just go straight to questions and public comment. If that's okay, Mr. City Attorney. Okay, so I'll forego staff report. I'll open up or ask for questions from council. Let me go to, there are no questions from council. I will see if there's public comment. I don't have any cards on public comment. I don't see any public comment online. I will close public comment, come back up to the dais, and, oops. And moved by Mayor Pro Tem, if there are no further questions, moved by Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein, and let's vote.
I did want to make a brief comment, if that's okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, go
Thank
ahead.
you. I wanted to acknowledge Councilmember Andrews' work around really treating trafficking as a serious issue within the city. I think it's often underspoken about and underrated as like one of our top issues, but it happens quietly and in the background. And also, I just wanted to acknowledge former chair of the Personnel Commission, Randy Wright, who Palm Springs has taken from us, but he was a very loud advocate around this issue as well, and having the city take a closer look at our massage parlors. And so I just appreciate the continued advocacy, and I'm happy as a council we're taking this issue seriously and doing something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I just had a quick question, just in general. At these places, is it possible we could put signage up regarding human trafficking? I've been seeing it more at airports and hotels, and wanted to see if we can do that.
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations that's going to
Okay.
come with the amendments as a requirement to put up that
Okay,
type
great.
of
Okay,
information.
thank you. And thank you, Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, for the acknowledgement.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Okay, moved, okay, so everything changes.
It got swapped. I don't know what happened. But I
Okay,
made the
so
motion.
moved by Councilmember Zermeño, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein, and then let's vote. And refresh. Hold on, we're getting there. And it looks like item passed with unanimous votes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7, which is East Bay Greenway Multimodal Project. Adopt a resolution approving the project evaluation for the East Bay Greenway Multimodal Hayward segment project. And this report is going to come to us by way of our Public Works Director, Alex Zaberi. And I did see online there are some people from ACTC, the Alameda County Transportation Commission. I see Jay De Los Reyes online. And so, anyways, I'll let Director Amiri kick this off, and then we'll proceed.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is a request for council to approve the completed scoping evaluation of the East Bay Greenway Multimodal Hayward project to enable the project development process to advance to the project approval and environmental document, or PA and ED phase. Kondo Raj, who is the ACTC project manager, is here to start the presentation, short presentation, followed by Lucas Woodward, who is a senior transportation engineer with the department. Like you mentioned, Jay De Los Reyes, the ACTC Director of Project Delivery, is also online to help answer any questions and receive your comments.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, Mayor and the council members. Again, I am Kanda Raj, Consultant Oversight Project Manager representing Alameda CDC, and I'm glad to be here today. Alameda CDC staff came in front of you in fall of 2023. I want to take a minute to talk about what we have been doing in the last 2.5 or 2+ years. So beginning in January of 2024, just take a step back. Both the governing bodies of the city as Alameda CDC asked the staff to evaluate the additional alignments that can be implemented within a short term. Short term means 3 to 5 years. So an Alameda CDC commission requested staff to form an active transportation working group so that they can work with us in a collaborative way to, to inform the project development. So initially we formed the active transportation working group. We call it ATWG. And that comprised of the staff members of the city, AC Transit, BART, as well as various committee members. We also see one person sitting here in the audience with East Bay Bikeway or Hayward Bikeway, and also persons with disabilities, as well as business communities. So we formed those groups. Initially, we evaluate the existing conditions, and then we move forward with the alignment alternatives. We discuss them as a group, and then we also recommend alternative alignments and the type of improvements that we can make in those groups. We did give a presentation to the City Infrastructure and Airport Committee in October 2024. And the SEAC actually asked the staff members to go back and do additional outreach and additional studies, which we did. We did the cut-through studies. We did extensive outreach. We did meet with the schools, as well as we knocked down like 900. We sent 986 flyers. We knocked down about 700 residents, and only about less than 100 opened the doors, and we talked to them. And those help inform the project decision. So again, we went back to the SEAC in October of 2024, and we got the approval of the scoping evaluation. Basically, what we're asking today is that, did we do what you asked us to do? So that we can move forward with the next phase, which is the environmental phase. That in where we will actually go through, it's a regulatory process, it's a state and federal process, state statutes are involved, and we'll be reevaluating all the studies we did. We'll engage the public, and then at the end, we'll recommend a preferred option that could be built. And the reason we want to do that is that will put us in a platform that we can compete for funding for the projects. For example, the northern segment of the project, that is from Oakland to San Leandro, that cost about $180 million. We have all the funds already secured, out of which 2/3 are grant funds. That means, it's a federal, state, and regional funds. So that's what we have been doing, and that's what we are here today to talk about this scoping level evaluation. So just to give you a quick update of what's the overall project development process, is that the blue arrow is where we are here today. So we are at the conclusion of our scoping, provided you're subject to your approval of the scoping, we will move into the environmental phase. So, and by like mid-2027, we'll be concluding the environmental phase that, like I mentioned, it'll adhere to the state and federal processes. Then we'll start the design and construction, for which right now we don't have funding for this segment. This is a southern segment within Hayward, connecting the Hayward BART station as well as the South Hayward BART station. So the purpose of the project, you heard about it quite a few times before, is basically we are trying to construct a 16-mile-long project from Oakland all the way south to Hayward that provides a safe and high visibility, all ages and ability trail that can be used by your community and to also to encourage motorship. And by providing a motorship, we're trying to encourage the people to walk and bike and access to the businesses, transit centers and whatnot, so it improves the health of the people. So I did mention about the active transportation work group. These are the groups that regularly participate on in the project development process. We met 4 times, and we did get the input. And working with the city, we did come to the conclusion of the scoping level of evaluations. With that, I'll turn over to Lucas.
Thank you, Raj. So I want to elaborate a little bit on that goal of all ages and abilities bikeways. It's Alameda CTC's policy. It's also good practice. And what that really means for us is that the specific facility type really depends on traffic speeds and traffic volumes. And at one end, you have very separated paths, a Class 1 shared use path or Class 4 bike lanes of various types. These are very separated, more appropriate for facilities that have higher speeds and volumes. At the other end, you've got some streets that we would call a bike boulevard, where it could be suitable for people of all ages and abilities with traffic calming. So the scoping phase began with data collection. The data were related to traffic and parking and the percentage of cut-through traffic. I'm going to speak a little bit more about those later, but I think one of the things that we heard from a lot of people was like, how many people are just driving through this corridor to get from one end of Hayward to the other? And I know that that's actually what mapping applications tell me to do when I'm driving through that area of town. So I want to spend a little time on the outreach, the project is very important. So our outreach consisted of 3 phases, and there's more to come during the environmental phase. This first phase consisted of the first 3 meetings of the Active Transportation Working Group, some other events that were really intended to capture both really deep, meaningful feedback from small groups, like these audits and focus groups, and also cast a wide net, such as the pop-ups at citywide events, such as the May Day Festival. At the request of the Infrastructure and Airport Committee, we also did some additional focused outreach, and Raj touched on this already, on that corridor, really just trying to hear, knocking on doors, trying to hear from people who are going to be most directly impacted day to day. We also met with the schools in the corridor and got some interesting feedback from them. This is all elaborated in one of the attachments of the staff report, some of the specific things that we heard. But just to highlight some of those key themes, the overall goals of this project, this idea of a regional trail that connects from Oakland to South Hayward, is broadly supported. There is also broad support for really making, this can't just be a bikeway. This has got to be making the neighborhood a better place. Like there's the strong support for amenities, aesthetics, walking conditions, things like that. Also heard some frustration, a lot of frustration about traffic and speeding on these streets, and some apprehension about the potential for removing parking or travel lanes. We also heard some specific feedback from Tennyson High students, and what we heard from students was, hey, we're getting bikes now, and we want to have great places to ride and great sidewalks and everything. Staff were a little more reserved and thinking more about the trade-offs in terms of parking and traffic. So we've talked about the alignment and how we've arrived at getting here. And I just want to provide a quick summary of what the bike facility recommendations are for this corridor. Corridor is about 4 miles. Up in North Hayward along Sunset and Montgomery, there's a suite of bike boulevard treatments, including traffic calming, wayfinding elements, that would be sufficient to provide a facility that is suitable for people of all ages and abilities. And the details of what sort of traffic calming, how intensive it needs to be, that's the sort of thing we can study in the next phase of the project. As we move on to the busier streets further south in the corridor, we really need more separation. And so there's a number of Class 4 facilities recommended along Grand and Whitman in particular being the big pieces of the corridor. And so there is, however, a gap between those, and that is the Silva and Sycamore, which have a lot of really specific challenges, and those are the most constrained streets in the corridor, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Some of the more recent changes to the recommended facility types include actually going to a Class 1 along most of Whitman Street that really makes use of that additional right-of-way next to the street, and the fact that there's not driveways or people's houses right in front of that alignment, that really gives us an opportunity to do some real placemaking, to make this a nice place with good landscaping and elements and things like that. There's also a few other small changes, but the general theme is that these busier streets in the southern part of the corridor get the highest level of protection. So I mentioned earlier the project team studied parking occupancy, and this was observations that the project team made of each street along the corridor during several different time periods. They spent a lot of time on the corridor. And so the numbers that I will be describing in the presentation really are built on several time slots, but they are an average. But we found very high parking occupancy up at the central part of the corridor around Silva. And so to sort of go line by line about what the parking changes would be, Meek Avenue has high parking occupancy. That is a place where to get a class 4, we would need to remove parking on one side of the street. Sycamore as well. Silva, I mentioned earlier, that has the highest parking occupancy of the entire corridor. Like 100% of parking spaces are used almost all the time. And so that is not a street that we really saw much of an opportunity to do anything without a major impact on the community. As we move further south, there are a number of spaces that would be impacted along Whitman Street. And this is only on the side of the street that is adjacent to the railroad tracks until you get to Tennyson High School where the corridor switches. This area actually, though, some parts of it have higher occupancy, around 43%, but others are actually, especially around Harder, very few people are parking there right now. So what does this get us? I guess is kind of a really important question to me. And I mentioned that one of the recent project changes was, let's look at a class 1 along Whitman. It gives us an opportunity to make this a better street and to really, give people something they'll use every day. And so it's not just, a street change. So this gives us, so that's just an idea of what that would look like. Looking again at what I'm really describing when I'm talking about these parking changes. I've been talking about this a lot because it's really been a focal point of sort of the SEAC discussions of this item. So along Whitman Street, from Sycamore to Orchard, we would be retaining parking on the side of the street that is adjacent to people's homes. It is on the other side of the street where parking would be removed. From Orchard to Berry, there's actually enough right-of-way there that we'll be able to install an all-ages and abilities bikeway on both sides, or an all-ages and abilities bikeway without making any changes to parking. That's one of the higher occupancy areas on the corridor. As we move further south from Berry to Harder, again, we have that pattern of against the railroad right-of-way, like removing parking there, but again, not actually affecting anything right in front of people's homes. Further south, again, at Harder and Fruitwood, again, we have a little more right-of-way to work with. So really, we try to be very sensitive about understanding where people are parking now and trying to make sure that we're preserving as much as we can and also making sure that people get something really wonderful in return. The last slides here just describing along the southern part of Whitman next to the school, we actually have a change where the bikeway serves the school. And then along Tennyson Road is like there's a lot of parking removed along Tennyson Road, but it's actually almost never used. It's parking that is not currently used. At this point, I'm going to give it back to Raj to talk about the upcoming environmental outreach.
Thank you, Lucas. So again, this is what SEAC meeting that I mentioned in October when we met, October of 2024. They did have some concern, and even though they approved that, they did ask us to continue with the outreach. So this is what Alameda City is committed to do. Again, this is a part of the environment process that we have to provide the outreach, and we will continue to do that throughout this year, 2026. Starting with, working with the community-based organizations, identify the groups, and then, one thing we found out, through the current process is that people like, the knocking at people's doors and get them to get involved and talk to them about it. That seems to be the most productive outreach, so that's something we would continue to do. We also would participate at this Tennyson High School. They had a walk and roll May Day event that we will join, and then we'll continue to have focus meeting, and we'll continue to engage the active transportation work group throughout this year. Again, the environmental document, we expect that to be approved in mid-2027. We will go through the public process. That means, the outreach will continue in 2027, and provided we gain funding, we will continue through the design and through construction as well. So just to give a quick update on the schedule, we are here at the first quarter in 2026. subject to your approval of the conclusion of the scoping evaluation. We will start the environment process this year, and it will go till mid-2027. That's what we think it's going to take. As I mentioned before, we do not have the funding for the next two phases, which is the design and construction, but we are confident that once we get the environment document approved in mid-2027, we'll be in a much better position to secure funding. As I mentioned, the north segment, 2/3 of the funding out of the 180 million is actually grant funds. So we are so confident that we can gain the funds, because this is a active transportation kind of project. It helps Moorshik, it address the climate crisis, and it also help the community, equity and whatnot. So we are hoping that we can move forward and construct the project in short term, as we promised, that 3 to 5 years. With that, thank you very much, and both Lucas and I will be happy to answer any question that you may have.
Thank you very much. Before I go to, this is a legislative business item, so I will come to council first and see if there's any questions from council. And let's see, Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Actually, maybe I should, it was more of a comment, so I'm gonna skip it, because I think you answered my question at the end about the funding, right? You said that those two phases are not funded yet, so you're hoping in the future they will be. So that was really it. He answered it before I could withdraw my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And, in the infrastructure, airport infrastructure committee, we have seen this, and I've also, as a member of the ACTC, I've also have seen this several iterations of it, probably for the last 2 years, I guess. Okay, so let me, I don't see any more questions. So what I'll do is, let me open up for public comment. And first public comment will come from Ahmed Sarab.
Good evening or good night. My name is Ahmed. I'm here to strongly support the Greenway project, as you might guess. I want to thank our county and city staff for working on this. I know it's not for the faint of heart to work on something like this with all the rambunctious opinions, as Mayor Salinas mentioned earlier. I ride this corridor every day, and I see many children riding the corridor as well, so this is huge for the safety of everybody riding. I mean, I rode down it just to get here tonight, and ironically enough, there was somebody impatiently behind me beeping their horn and aggressively passing me on one of those shared sections. So imagine if that's a teenager, riding down that path. I just wanted to raise, I had some brief looks at the concepts and the agenda, so I have some concerns about where the lanes switch sides. Can we make sure there's some robust crossing infrastructure? There's also sections that are narrower with bridges, especially on Whitman, where you, I think, go over Orchard and harder. Is there going to be enough space such that you're not getting forced into traffic from the shared use? And a few other things as well, so I'm not going to get into too many details, but I respectfully request the staff to collaborate with Bike Hayward and Bike East Bay as we get into the detailed design. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Alejandro Jasso.
Hi, thank you. Alejandro Jasso, local resident near Mission Boulevard, and also co-chair for Bike Hayward. And yeah, I'm here to urge you all to finally approve this project to move forward. All the other segments have already been approved, as we heard. Some of them have already been built. Like one of the biggest sections, the northern section, already has funding approved, and we're still in the scoping phase. Just for context, Measure BB was passed in 2014, and then the original plan was to have this on the railway tracks. That was switched in 2021. Since 2021, this alignment, the scoping for this alignment has been studied. Originally, it was on Mission Boulevard, and then it was pushed by the city to Whitman, and that costed an additional $3 million. Originally, the whole northern segment costed around over $1 million to study it, just for the scoping part. So like just this scoping section is costing 3 times as much as that 10-mile section. This section is only 5 miles, so just for context. Also, there's a project in Mexico City that's covering 22 miles that took 14 months to go from concept to construction. And that's just, a pilot phase. So just wanted to provide that context. And regarding this project moving forward, of course, like in the sections where parking is gonna be removed, the city needs to have a strong strategy about tackling the pushback, because cars, people are invested into their cars. They spend money on their cars. So we need to have a solution for that. And, there's one. The Clean Cars for All offers $7,500 for older cars. That's how I was able to get rid of my car and just get an e-bike. And I have no interest in getting a car again. Also, the city should make sure that they start implementing parking permits in the areas where they're gonna be removing parking, to make sure that people that have 4 or 5 cars, as they start thinking about figuring out what to do with those extra cars. And also to make sure that the people that live there, they have a space to park their cars. Lastly, I have other comments regarding some of the details, like having the 2-way cycle track on Grant on the east side, which could actually allow for more parking, but I would encourage you to work with us, work with Bike Kisbe and other local organizations that are on the ground. So thank you.
Thank you. Tyler Dragoni.
Hi, thank you. So we, all agree that Mission Boulevard, needs to be changed and augmented, and it was this was the chance to do it. But I'm moving on from that. But I support the project, but I definitely have criticisms of it, because it was crystal clear from the moment that this project was shifted from Mission Boulevard to Whitman, not inclusive of what you think about that shift. It needed to be implemented and designed and built for, quote, all ages and abilities, including wheelchair users. I was under the impression all ACTC board members were under the impression, staff was under that impression, the working group was under that impression. And so here we are, all these years later, with the headline that in portions of this project, it does not meet that legal definition of all ages and abilities, because sharrows don't protect anyone at any age and ability or at any time. So due to the switching of the alignment, which any other city did for their Greenway project, we have to wait until 2030. I think that's a long time. But in the spirit of collaboration, I would like to offer some suggestions on parts that we can improve upon when it comes to this project. I think traffic calming needs to be front and center. Whitman is just a speed thoroughfare. Each intersection should have a raised or tabled intersection, like the ones you see on Fairview Avenue. I'm talking about actual implementation that slows cars down. I think we all know the feel-good stuff, right? Like the humps that actually don't, slow down cars. I'm talking about stuff that actually makes it closer to all ages and abilities, but I'm skeptical about that. Another suggestion is the switching from so you're asking bikes to switch sides of the road mid-route, and obviously that would just presents another barrier to biking in general. So at these switches, we need enhanced, whether it's flashing beacons, I think a raised crosswalk, absolutely, raised intersection, some other mechanism other than paint to tell cars that there's going to be an active transportation user crossing in front of them to get on that pathway. So how are we making these sorts of things safe?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. We have someone online. Bruce, CV Science.
Yes, Bruce Doogie here again. I support the project. I think it's about time. It's an area that I already cycle. My concerns are about the all ages and abilities, just as a couple have mentioned already. Silva is particularly challenging. Excuse me, it's no fun whatsoever to ride. It's dangerous. I don't know what can be done because there's already parking removed on one side. So I agree that one's the sort of the biggest challenge of the whole thing. But I do want to mention Montgomery. Montgomery, which is in the northernmost part, and I take that pretty regularly to get to the business Costco. That really needs to have a diverter, I guess they call it. It needs to basically not allow through traffic with cars. And so this is pretty popular in Berkeley. They're bike boulevards, and so it should work fine because there's a number of blocks. There are alternative streets there, so you can drivers can figure out how they need to go. But even speed tables are not adequate for Montgomery, and I think that's pretty realistic to have some kind of a diverter. But yeah, Silva is a real challenge. I love to see the class 1 along Whitman. Whitman is also no fun. It's a little bit better with the markings that are on it now versus a few years ago. Was even more challenging. And anytime you have a switch of the sides, you really need to have something automated. You need to prioritize the bicycles and not have to have a bake button and sit there and wait. That's just not right. So any kind of time you have a crossing, you need to make it easy and not time consuming and automated, just like cars. Cars have automated crossings. So those are my comments. I think I'm really looking forward to any kind of improvements. That's going to make life so much better. I do agree that this should have gone along Mission because people still need to access Mission for the businesses and such, and that's pretty dangerous. So, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Carl Goringe.
Hello, thank you. I'm Carl Gorge, downtown Hayward resident and member of Bike Hayward. I'm commenting in support of advancing item 7, the East Bay Greenway project. It would provide much needed access to Hayward schools and to our 2 BART stations. I frequently ride my bike to downtown Hayward BART, and I really think this needs to happen. I'd also like to encourage the city to support future work in improving safe biking along Mission Boulevard. I agree with some of the other comments made regarding Silver Avenue and Mission, and would like to see connections on the north end at A Street and Mission. Please continue working with Bike Hayward. For now, I would strongly encourage moving this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I don't have any more public comment cards. So I will come back up here to the dais. Councilmember Zermania.
Mayor, thank you, and thank you, staff, for a good report. Thanks for I am a bicycle user, so this is something that I appreciate. I am sad that it's not happening on Mission Boulevard. and I am sad that it's not happening on Hesperian Boulevard. So I'm also sad that it won't happen until 2031, but such is life. I like your tag about get rid of your dying car. That's an excellent idea. One positive is that hopefully with Whitman being included, it will be cleaner more often. It will be cleaned more often because it is a litter street all the time on Whitman and right next to the railroad track. So those are the positives. Huge positive, a little sad, but that's the way it goes. Thank you, and let's see if we can speed it up and get some more money, whatever the case. And if you don't have a bicycle, buy one in Hayward. Thank you very much. And I'm going to move on this item.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rosiro.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank staff, both with our city and with the County Transportation Commission. This has been a long time coming. Want to thank the mayor for his work on both ACTC and the SEAC, the Council Infrastructure and Airport Committee, as well as Councilmember Andrews. I think we've had a lot of good discussions around making this project successful. I myself am not an e-bike user, I'm an e-scooter user, so I've definitely ridden on these roads that we're talking about and understand how quickly and fast people are moving on them. This is a thoroughfare that connects students to community gardens, to neighborhoods, and I really think that this project is going to transform the Whitman neighborhood into really one of the most distinct in the entire city. I know that these kinds of changes can feel scary. I know that things like pedestrian improvement, traffic calming, and bike lanes sometimes get a bad rep or feel like something's being taken away. But I also want folks to understand that this is a significant $10 million plus investment. Correct me if I'm wrong on that number, but I think 10 million is probably on the lower end here, much higher, in making and beautifying this neighborhood that's primarily, I would say, one of our most diverse in the city in the middle of the Jackson Triangle. I mean, when we talk about equity, this is a massive investment in a neighborhood that doesn't see a lot of investment. And so I'm really excited to see the ways in which this neighborhood will transform and be more and provide more amenities to the residents that often don't get those kinds of amenities. I want to also acknowledge Bike Hayward and Bike East Bay activists. You really got to love what you do to be here at 10 or past 10 to speak about this. And this is more than just bike lanes as well. I think folks often think, why do we need the bike lanes? The bike lanes to me are the icing on the cake. This is really about making the streets safe for everybody. This is more than just the bicyclists. It's for our seniors, it's for students, it's for folks that aren't have different levels of ability. So this is really an all-inclusive project that we're trying to accomplish here, and I definitely take the feedback that this isn't necessarily meeting that mark of being all ages and abilities in every location. I would have loved to see this on Mission 2. I kind of came into this project on the council midstream after that change had been made. I've asked our Public Works Director a lot of questions around why those changes were made. I'd rather see us move forward and initiate this investment as soon as we can. I also think we got to look at why it takes a decade to do this. I know on one hand it's the city moving it from Mission to Orchard, but I'm hoping these kinds of infrastructure projects are something we can look at finding ways to streamline, and I recognize some of that's out of our control when it comes to the county and state level regulations. But when I'm reading stories about China building a hospital in 48 hours, I gotta wonder, like, this is a road. Can we do that a little bit faster than 10 years? Overall, I'm happy to second this motion with Councilmember Zermeño. I think, I'm just really grateful to be on the council and be part of this project, and I'm really excited to see this neighborhood transform as a result. And I do want to acknowledge the fears around parking. I did read through the staff attachment where there are resident surveys, and I know you're going to do more surveys as part of this next phase. That, time and time again, is the major issue. People are concerned about overflow and parking on side streets. I appreciate you clarifying where parking is going to be removed and preserved, because I think people hear removed parking and they think the whole thing is going away. And I recognize there's a lot of excess capacity, so there should be enough room despite the parts of it that are being removed. And that parking lane next to the South Hayward BART station on Tennyson is almost never used, in my opinion, so I understand why you'd want to convert that too. So I think most of these changes make a lot of sense. It's hard to communicate exactly where parking is going to be preserved and not preserved, so I appreciate your effort to present that tonight. I'm confident that we're going to find a way to speak to our neighbors' needs more than we already have in this next environmental review process. So I'm happy to support this project and move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I know a lot of time and energy has gone into this, and it sounds like there will be a lot more time and energy that will go into it. And thanks to our council that have worked on this and seen this a lot. I'm not in any of the committees, so honestly, I only get to see it here. So besides, watching what everyone's doing in their committee. So appreciate all the work that's gone in. I do think this is the kind of work that helps Hayward be more attractive, especially to younger people, to think of this as a city, that they could live and work in and enjoy with, many forms of transportation. But I'm also glad to see that you've been pretty purposeful about the parking situation in front of people's homes because, with some of the other projects we've even talked about tonight, there are a lot of people that they have a home, they have multiple generations living there, and their quality of life depends on people being able to park in front of their home, whether it's for safety reasons, for children being able to come and go and bring your groceries in late at night, older people being able to park, right along the curb. It's a very serious quality of life issue for people. And while I agree, I think the idea of giving up your car is great. I think that there's a generation coming that won't be as dependent. There are people still loving and enjoying their homes and enjoying the city while being able to park in front of their home. So I appreciate the purposefulness of leaving it where you can, but adding protected bike lanes where you can, because I know that is the ideal. We have them in Fairway Park. I love them on Mission Boulevard and Fairway Park. I think that is, the right place for them. I think it's been great. I think it enhances our quality of life. I mean, our property values, frankly, and with those protected bike lanes. So I see the ideal. I just think, sort of getting the ideal within a community of multiple, economic levels and, needs and how they're enjoying their space, I think we have to be realistic about that. So I'm glad you took that into consideration. And I like the idea of the calming measures that should go along with this. I see in the slides that you are contemplating those kind of calming measures. So I hope that you continue to work with the bike advocacy community in order to make some of the tweaks that I think we even talked about tonight. I think that will be important. But otherwise, I'm in support of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you for bringing this project forward. I'm excited, actually. I think initially I was a little concerned about moving it from Mission Boulevard to Whitman, but the more I think about it, the more I actually like it. First of all, because I think along Whitman, people are actually more likely to use it. I ride my bike occasionally, and honestly, I don't think you could do enough work on Mission Boulevard to make me comfortable riding my bike on Mission Boulevard. I just don't see it. But on Whitman, yes. And also it does tie in with Huntwood and then industrial and then the more southern part of Mission Boulevard. So I see this as a good thing. And it certainly doesn't rule out the opportunity to add to Mission down the road. So I like this. I am a little concerned about areas of crossing over. I just remember times when my kids are grown now, but when they were little, I would take them on bike rides, and trying to cross the street, with a couple of little kids is a scary thing, scary for them and scary for me too. And so whatever we can do to mitigate that threat, not just the visuals from it, but also to make sure that incidents like what happened to Mr. Pena never happen. I mean, tragedies like that just shouldn't happen. But I see this as being a huge thing. I also like it, that it's in that neighborhood. I think for many, many years, that neighborhood has just been kind of neglected. We look at Mission Boulevard, we look at downtown, we look at Tennyson Business Corridor, but we generally don't necessarily really consider big projects in neighborhoods. And I think this is a great opportunity to spread the love. And so I want to thank our folks from Bike Hayward and Bike East Bay, and also for the Council Infrastructure Committee for pursuing this. And job well done. I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff. I also want to thank my colleagues on the Infrastructure Committee who have been looking at this. I also wish that this was on Mission Boulevard. I mean, I get why it can't be, but man, it would just be lovely if this was on Mission, especially because, you know, I see when you go down Mission even further into the Fairway Park area, the potential of what could really happen with Mission. So it's just sad to see that, you know, it's not going to happen along the full corridor. But, you know, I am happy to finally see this project moving forward, I think is, you know, the where I can find the lining in this. You know, I grew up on Whitman. I went to Harder School. I went to Cesar Chavez. I went to Tennyson. I know how impactful that street is with traffic. So, you know, and I think I also can see the vision for how transformative it could be with, you know, this going through that community. But I also just want to make sure that, you know, the comments we heard around protected crossing infrastructure, I think is something that we need to be really mindful of, because I don't, you know, there's just so much traffic on that street, especially in the morning when people are taking their kids to school. I can just see people getting so frustrated with having to wait behind bikers or having to watch kids cross the I mean, so we, you know, thinking about how we're being intentional about, you know, like we heard, more than just, you know, striping, and, you know, how do we really make sure that we're being mindful about how we're protecting crossing infrastructure, but just also protecting the, you know, what we're building here and this whole Greenway project in general. I also know that parking on that street could be, you know, pretty impacted as well. And as Councilmember Roche had said, you know, parking is a quality of life issue in Hayward. So I would like to see us consider some sort of parking permit process, as we've heard from, you know, some of the public here today, to really make sure that parking doesn't become an, you know, a bigger issue than perhaps what we're planning for today. And then, two last comments. One is I would like us to continue to work with Bike Hayward and Bike East Bay. I appreciate you guys being here and the comments you made tonight. And then lastly, is there any comment on around, you know, the all abilities and all ages that this infrastructure is supposed to be available to, and kind of the public comment that we heard tonight?
Yeah, I can answer that. This project actually will, that's a policy that we adopted, Alameda City Commission adopted. So we did look through this to implement that in this project, except for Silva. So talking, you know, the Silva, it's about quarter mile, maybe less. Out of that, you know, 4 mile stretch, except for Silva, this project will implement all liabilities. So, so that's.
So with Silva not being, you know, kind of the all ages and all ability, would that kind of jeopardize any future funding for the project, or do you think it's pretty secure the way the project is built now with that policy that you just mentioned?
That all ages and abilities in Alameda City's process, so we do have to go and tell them why we couldn't do it. The reason is, I think one of the council members mentioned there are multiple generations living in that in those houses. The household holds like grandparents. So they have a lot of costs, and we can't remove them. We can't remove the parking. So that's that segment, you know, we can't do a pinch point. We could do anything other than doing a shared facility. That should not affect the funding. Again, we are working with the city as well. City has plans to look into that further through the CIP process. But we do not think that that's going to impede that funding.
Okay, you know, funding aside, I appreciate kind of the constraint that we're facing and how creative we've been to try to avoid it, but it just sounds like it's unavoidable at this particular point. But happy to see this project moving forward, so thank you.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you. I know that we talked about this project for a long time in Infrastructure Committee, and I want to thank my colleagues for the discussion. I agree with Councilmember Roach that I am for bike lanes, and I really appreciate them on major corridors, but I do have concerns about them in front of houses that have been there for decades. So I really do appreciate the additional outreach that you have gone after that meeting. Appreciate you going door to door. I would ask that you have this as a fact page on our website and include all the information you have corralled regarding outreach, because guarantee we're going to get people coming back saying that they didn't hear about this happening. So I would like to have this recording on the page. I would want the slide on the page, and as well as just all the different meetings that we've had regarding this project. Also, if you have any flyers, postcards, all that information, have it on the fact page, because we will have people coming. I did notice on your slides, I think for future projects, I think we should consider the coloring of some of those slides. I think it's a little disingenuous to have green where it shows parking removed. It can be a little confusing for some folks who are referencing those slides. So I don't know if that's something that can be adjusted, but it looks like you're actually giving us parking, right, when you use green. But I mean, it's just a minor detail. But just if we are going to put it on the fact page, maybe we can make that adjustment just so it's not confusing to folks. But I think you all did a really good job in responding to the feedback that I gave, because this is my bigger concern is about Silva, right? Like, we can do all these things, but then Silva can come out and be the ones that are most impacted by these projects. While everyone else is enjoying the benefits of the city, they're living there. That is their residence, and they're not going to necessarily see it the same way as others. So really appreciate all the hard work that you've done with this, and I look forward to seeing better facilities in this part of the community. Thanks.
Yeah, I did catch that color, and I think because right now, what we see out on the streets right now, bike lanes are green. And so when they're going to make that connection. So, I just thank you for catching that. I wanted to thank Mr. Hasso for giving us the history in 90 seconds. that was very good. And let me tell you, this project. Ideally, I wish it was also, contiguous all the way through Mission Boulevard. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just going to say it just so that it's said, and when people watch this, after all of this is said and done, if we would have changed or reduced the size of Mission Boulevard, because that's what sort of the plan was. It was to, by adding bike lanes, it would have basically narrowed Mission Boulevard. We would have been having a very, very different conversation here in this chamber tonight. And, all of the comments up here, yes, absolutely. You won't get any disagreement. But, I think to go back to ACTC and Public Works, we really, I think what I'm hearing, and I hope you're hearing from us, is we really need to figure out what we're going to do on Mission Boulevard between, Fletcher and Tennyson, because it is, something needs to happen, and so hopefully this new, the study that we're going to be looking at right now, that we approved earlier, will get to that, but I think this council, and particularly the infrastructure committee, I think we've demonstrated that we're not afraid to, make these kinds of infrastructural advancements and get behind them. And even when there's pushback from neighborhoods, I mean, I think all three of you have been at the infrastructure committee where you've seen neighborhoods come out, and we've sort of held the line on this, and so. But a lot of work has gone into this. Secondly, the corridor. My central concern is the Whitman corridor. That Whitman corridor for me is a big deal, because a lot of traffic, a lot of cars. You got apartments, you got single-family homes, you got 3 schools. You got a greenway, you got a community. I mean, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of kids traffic. There's a lot of family traffic. A lot of families walk, they roll, I mean, you guys ride it every day. I mean, it is a busy, busy corridor. And I absolutely agree with Mayor Pro Tem Syrup that this project will absolutely change that neighborhood. The other thing I'd like to see as we plan this, and this may not be, well, if it is part of the project, it'd be great to see it. If not, maybe Public Works we can figure out to include this, but I'd like to see more trees along that corridor. A lot more trees, a lot more lights, flora, fauna, and just, I mean, we really need to make that corridor a beautiful thoroughfare through that corridor. Ideally, and I'll say it just because people are going to watch this meeting later, I wish we had more cooperation with Union Pacific and Southern Pacific, because I would just love to just slice that whole, east side of Whitman, slice it, and then pave that whole corridor. It would be solved. This whole thing would be solved. But we don't have that partnership, and it is what it is. So we're going to do what we have to do that. Outreach, the infrastructure committee, we asked for more outreach. We asked, clearly you guys did it, but I also want to just say we need more. Every time we're out there, we need to talk to, keep engaging. We may even do a year out, do in about a year, do another round of outreach, because people are going to say, I didn't know. And so we just need to keep talking about it. We need to start, you know how there's those big billboards that say ACTC project? We need to put those billboards up and, and get people like, oh yeah, that's what's coming. I mean, we really need to and put a QR code on there so that they get referred to a website where they see, this meeting, they see infrastructure meetings and so forth. The other, let's see, trees. Okay. But other than that, a lot of work has gone into this. It is this is a long, it's taken a long time. And in fact, it even started, it started before I got here. Of course, it started when I was on the council, but there has been a lot of tug of war going on between the city and ACTC. And I am really pleased to see that we're here today. And I'm just not saying this, but ACTC they've worked with us, and you guys have been really flexible. So I just want to, go back and tell Tavares that. Say I said that in public on the dais, and the director of ACTC is Tony Tavares. So thank you. Okay, with that, thank you very much. I will close final comments, and I did public comments on this already, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah. So close final comments, and then I will come back here. And I did see. Councilmember Zermeño moved it, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, and let's take the vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Bike East Bay. Keep up the good work. ACTC, thank you, sir. Moving on to council member oral reports. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you. Can I just ask maybe the city manager or someone from the staff to talk about the Visit Hayward campaign that recently launched?
Yeah, and we can absolutely get you more information about this too, but this is really to try and showcase how you can easily get to Hayward, especially in light of the regional events that are going to be happening. So how you can get there, we can add more information to it, but when you're here, what you can do here. And I think we'll keep building on that website, but there'll be social media that goes along with it, especially focusing on the ways to get here through transportation. So.
And just to add one thing, and that just to be a little more explicit, it's really before, we wanted to launch this before the Super Bowl. And given that it's in Santa Clara and then also the World Cup. So really trying to kind of lead up to some of these larger regional events. And we are talking with HARD and the Chamber about other ways that we can coordinate on some of these regional events.
Excellent. I just appreciate the intentionality around it. And if there's anything that we can do as council to, kind of promote this, I think it's great. This Visit Hayward, Heart of the Bay promotional campaign, I think is just the right thing to be doing right now, especially because I think there's so much wonderfulness about Hayward. And like, this campaign says, how central we are to everything in the Bay and why people need to come here and how it is that this work supports our businesses and our hoteliers. And I think it just pulls everything together nicely. And I know Councilmember Andrews has really been pushing for this, but I think that I'm just really excited to see this. And I just want to say thank you to the staff for launching this. And I just look forward to seeing how we continue to roll this out over the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonilla, for bringing this to our attention tonight. Also wanted to acknowledge Councilmember Goldstein on his advocacy as well on this, and wanted to know if we can bring the page to the Economic Development Committee, just so we can look at what other cities are doing and how it's structured. But I do appreciate the start. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more, I will, Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you. I did actually push the button. I'm not sure why it disappeared. We'll get to that later. Beacon Exercise brings together the volunteer auxiliary communications community with the career professional emergency management staff. The exercise itself is designed to bring together these folks across 16 counties. We've actually had a few extra counties sign up, so it's actually pretty wide scale. If you want more information, go to beaconexercise.org. The reason I'm bringing it up right now, again, is this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 is we are having a tabletop exercise. The purpose of that exercise is to discuss what we're actually going to be doing in the exercise. Everybody is invited to participate. The link to join the online meeting is on the beaconexercise.org website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And seeing no more hands, there are no there are no council referrals, so I'll move on to adjournment. Next meeting is February 3rd at 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned.
Record.